through this. I hope will be beneficial to those that are currently doing lotteries and those that would like to start doing some lotteries. A few things before I introduce our guest speaker. We have coffee, water, and some Timbits over to the side. Please help yourself. Also, those that are familiar with the hall, the restrooms are just through the door and just on the left. We do have some exits here in case we have an emergency. Hopefully we won't. Also, I put some sign-up sheets on the tables for people. If you want to put your name, your organization, an email, I can send a slide presentation out to you. We also are recording the session, so I can send you either the Zoom link or we can let you know where you can find it. Now, I would like to introduce everyone to our guest speaker, Rusty Parr from the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario. Rusty is a Senior Eligibility Officer for Licensing and Registration. Rusty has over 35 years in the charitable gaming industry, both as a regulator and a commercial operator. He has been with AGCO for 15 years in his current role as Senior Eligibility Officer. Rusty has led some new and exciting innovatives at AGCO, such as the launch of Catch the Ace and electronic raffle frameworks. Not sure if any of you are doing that here, but along with the expansion of the C-gaming sites. Before starting at AGCO, Rusty was the operation manager at the very first C-gaming site in Barrie, Ontario. Prior to that, he was the general manager of Bingo Country Newmarket facility. Please help me welcome Rusty. I also have our mayor, Frank Landry. I think he would like to come up and say a few words to him as well.
Thank you very much. No, I just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone for coming tonight. I see we have some of our rec groups in the back. There's other municipalities that jumped on board, so I hope it will be Rusty can keep us engaged and have a good session. I'd like to thank Leanne. So she went through a lot of work to organize this, and hopefully that it could be beneficial to all of us to get a better understanding that it's not always Leanne's fault. But no, overall, I appreciate you guys taking that time on a Thursday night to come out, and hopefully you will enjoy the session. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a new experience for me because I've never done the streaming service to charities outside of the presentation. So I'm going to try and use this microphone as best I can so that they can hear me through the streaming service. What we're going to do is I'm going to go through the framework, and as Leanne said, we can certainly give this copy of this presentation to everybody that's interested. Just let Leanne know and she can give you a copy. But during the course of the night, if you have questions, I just ask you to kind of write those questions down, and then we'll get to the questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so I'm happy to commit to myself that I'll stick around here and answer everybody's questions that they have, scenarios, all that detail, so that you leave here with all the answers that you were looking for or hoping to get here tonight. I'm back in here, and Dan and I are back in here again tomorrow morning with municipalities in the area to do some training for them as well. So I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions that you guys have. Okay. Now, one of the things I like to set things off with first is that if you have a situation where going through this presentation and I explain some things and you say, oh my goodness, we shouldn't be doing what we're doing, don't panic. Okay, the purpose of tonight's session is to really just kind of give you guys some information and educate you guys on what you can do, what you can't do. If there are situations or things that you're not comfortable with after tonight, just talk to Leanne about it. We can certainly work with you on trying to figure out how best to kind of work around or work through what it is you're doing. Okay, so I don't want anybody leaving here thinking, oh my goodness, there's going to be police coming at my door, or there's going to be problems, or I'm going to get the license suspended, or anything like that. Okay, this is just an educational opportunity for you guys to hopefully leave here tonight feeling a little bit more comfortable with running the lotteries that you guys run. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go through some foundational framework pieces here. You can see everything for charitable gaming stems from the criminal code. Okay, so the criminal code has some sections in it that talk about gaming and gambling. And then from the criminal code, there is different authorities that's going to be given to each of the different provinces. Okay, so what you'll find is some of your brother or sister organizations that are in other provinces, they may be able to do certain lotteries that we don't do here in Ontario. Okay, a good example of that is the Catch the Ace. So the Catch the Ace was only recently launched here over the last 5 or 6 years, but it was being done in other provinces a lot sooner than it was done here in Ontario. Okay, because each province has the authority to define what types of licenses they want to offer in their province. Okay. And then in Ontario, we have the Gaming Control Act of 1992 and the Ordering Counts 208 in 2024. So these pieces of legislation, the Gaming Control Act, has anybody gone into a convenience store to buy lottery tickets, 649 lottery tickets? Each of those convenience stores, in order to sell those lottery products for OLG, has to have a registration under the Gaming Control Act. Okay? And does anybody here do break open tickets? How many charities do break open tickets? Okay. So break open ticket suppliers, the companies that make the break open tickets, their company and their employees have to be registered under the Gaming Control Act. So we do background checks on all the people that are getting registrations through the Gaming Control Act to make sure that they're going to operate with honesty and integrity. So all the casinos, all their employees have to be registered, bingo halls, the suppliers, they all have to be registered under the Gaming Control Act, right? And then the Ordering Council, we'll go into a little bit about that, but that's really the legislation, the provincial legislation that defines whether you need to go to the municipality to get a license or whether you come to the AGCO to get a license. Okay. So you can see here that through the criminal code, there's a section of the criminal code, section 206, that says it is illegal to gamble in Canada. Right? So right in section 206, it says it prohibits gaming activities. But in section 207, there are some exemptions to 206. Okay? The government loves to do this, right? So here's the rule, but then here's some of the breakings of the rule that we're going to make. So in the section 207, you can see 207(1)(a) of the criminal code allows for the provincial governments to conduct and manage lottery schemes. So that's the section of the criminal code that allows OLG to conduct and manage the 649, the Lotto Max, the casinos, and all those lotteries under 207(1)(a). Under 207(1)(b) is what we're here for tonight. Okay? And this is a pretty important section, and there's 3 significant pieces of information in this section of the criminal code. And that is, it's a charitable or religious organization pursuant to a license issued to conduct and manage lottery schemes if the proceeds are used for a charitable or religious purpose. Okay, so those are the 3 pieces. So first off, you've got to be a charitable or religious organization. You cannot be an individual person, even if the money is being donated to a charity. So I could not, with all of my knowledge and understanding and skills, I could not get a lottery license myself, even if I'm willing to donate it to the Cancer Center or the Cancer Society, because I'm not a charitable or religious organization. So that's what we have to do in terms of eligibility to make sure your organization fits into one of the criteria of eligibility that's outlined in our policy manual, to make sure your organization is a charitable or religious organization. So once we've done that and said, yep, you're eligible, then we have to give you a license. So what that means, though, is that if you run a lottery scheme without a license, you are in fact breaking section 206 of the criminal code. Okay? If you're a charitable organization and you get a license, then you're not breaking the criminal code because we gave you a license to run that lottery event. But if you're an eligible organization and you run a 50-50 raffle without a lottery license, then you're breaking the criminal code. If you run a bingo, you're breaking the criminal code unless you have a license. So you either have to be in the provincial government under 207(1)(a), or you have to be a charitable organization that gets a lottery license to do it legally. All right? And then that third piece is one of the more frustrating ones that we get back from the charities, is that we need to understand what you want to do with the money that you raise from the lottery license we give you. Because we have to determine whether or not the proceeds, which are just the profits from the lottery, are being used for charitable or religious purposes. They can't be used for administrative costs, unless those administrative costs are charitable or religious purposes or programs. So on all the applications that we ask you, when you submit them, we ask, what do you want to do with the money? I mean, you haven't raised it yet, but you're hoping to raise money from that lottery, but what do you want to do with it? And then you're gonna give us the programs, you're gonna give us the details. I wanna support this initiative, or I wanna donate the proceeds to these organizations, or I wanna put, kids at camp, all sorts of different things that you wanna do with the money. And then we can then give you a license, and then the expectation is, when you raise money under that license, that's what you're gonna spend the money on. Are those things that you asked for in the application. Okay? And then the last thing there, as you can see, there's section 207(1)(c) of the criminal code allows for lottery schemes to be conducted and managed by a fair or exhibition board. So if there's a fair or exhibition that wants to get a lottery license to help offset the cost of running the fair, then they can get a license under section 207(1)(c), but that type of license comes to the AGCO. All right? So let's talk about what the definition of a lottery scheme is, because I'm sure some of you have had some great ideas, and I get this question a lot from organizations, is that I've got this great, fantastic idea, Rusty, that I want to make lots and lots of money for my charity. The question is, do I need to get a license for it? I don't know whether I need to get a license for it. So they describe the event for me, and then I say to them, okay, well, I can't give you a legal opinion. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't provide a legal opinion. What I can do is I can give you the definition of a lottery scheme, and it has the 3 elements. I can give you that information and say, this is what the definition of a lottery scheme is. So if whatever event you're thinking of or wanting to create for your charity, if it has these 3 elements, it can be considered a lottery scheme. And those elements are a consideration or a fee, which is usually money, for a chance to win a prize. So whatever event, and all of the current events that you guys run, whether it's break open tickets, or whether it's raffles, or whether it's bingos, they'll all fall under that definition. Consideration or fee, you gotta pay money for the break open tickets, or raffle tickets, or bingo cards. So for a chance, okay, so if it's a raffle, I'm doing a random draw out of a bin, that's a chance. For break open tickets, I got 5 windows I need to open to see whether or not there's 3 symbols that are the same. And then for bingo, the bingo numbers, right, being called. So that's the definition, and then of course the prize. So when we look at the definition of the lottery scheme, if your event or the concept that you have has all 3 of those, then it's going to be defined as a lottery scheme. And then we go back to the first slide and say, okay, if it's a lottery scheme, then I need to get a lottery license for it in order to do it legally. Okay? Consideration can be direct or it can be indirect. When we talk about direct consideration, that is purchasing that gaming product. The buying the raffle ticket, buying the bingo cards, buying the break open ticket for whatever the cost is, that's direct. Now, indirect consideration can be if you're gonna run an event where you're gonna invite people, let's say we were to invite you guys all today and we were to charge you $2 to get in the door. Probably have a lot less people here tonight, but if I charged you $2 to get in the door, and I was gonna do a door prize to try and award somebody a prize here, that would be indirect consideration for a chance to win a prize. In order for me to run that, I need to have a lottery license. Okay? Now, what we've also done is all of the types of lottery schemes that we've been licensed, whether a license comes from the municipality or from the AGCO, we outline them in our lottery licensing policy manual. So this document, or this booklet, is about 287 pages long. Okay? If you're having a hard time sleeping, just go onto our website, start reading the policy manual, and you'll be probably like a light real quick. But that's the document that we use at the AGCO to kind of outline all of the policies that we have to try and create consistency across the province, so that the manual that I use is the same manual that Leanne will use, it's the same manual that every other municipality in Ontario is going to use in terms of the policies, the types of licenses that can be issued, the eligibility criteria for organizations, the conflicts of interest, all those kinds of details are outlined in that policy manual. Now, what we have done is in the policy manual is broken it down into various chapters. So each type of lottery has its own chapter. So for example, raffles are in chapter 5. So it's a good opportunity if you're looking for something new and you're saying, you know what, I'm tired of doing 50/50s, or I'm tired of doing, you know, this kind of stub raffle. I want to do a new raffle, but I don't know whether I can come up with a new concept or if it's even licensable. You can go to our policy manual into chapter 5 and see a whole bunch of different types of raffles that are available with some descriptions on how to run those. So there you can then say, oh, well, maybe Maybe a Bossy Bingo or a Cow Patty Bingo raffle would be easy for us to run and be a lot of fun. So let's maybe look at that, or an elimination raffle. Nobody does an elimination raffle in the area, so let's try that, because it outlines exactly how elimination raffle is done. So you don't necessarily have to recreate the wheel. You can go to the policy manual and you can see exactly what types of licenses you can get from the municipality or from the AGCO. Okay, and then it's available on our website 24/7. So the order in council, and you can see there it's 208, 2024. The 2024 obviously is the year that it came into existence. So we've just made a change this year, a recent change to the order in council. Not that it affects the municipal authority or anything, but that was really to allow for, does anybody here buy any of the raffle tickets online for the Jays Care Foundation? Somebody is? Okay, a couple of you. So in order for that, to do the Jays Care Foundation, they can sell tickets in Ontario and they can sell tickets in Nova Scotia. So in order to be able to allow that organization to do that, we entered into an MOU with Nova Scotia and had to make changes to the order in council. So, but the order in council allows for municipalities to issue lottery licenses and the AGCO to issue licenses. It outlines and details those the requirements for those. It kind of further enhances the criminal code criteria. As you can see here, licenses may be issued to eligible charitable groups if the proceeds are used for a charitable object, which sounds very similar to what it said in the criminal code section. However, it says if there is a direct benefit to the residents of Ontario. So now, not only do I have to make sure you're an eligible organization and you get a license from me and that you're going to use it for charitable programs and services, but I now also have to make sure there's a direct benefit to the residents of Ontario. So that's, again, additional responsibilities on all the licensing officers, Leanne included, to make sure how is your benefit going to be directly benefiting the residents of Ontario? And some of the challenges that you guys will have up in this area is that we need to make sure that they're not directly benefiting the residents of Quebec. Because if they aren't benefiting the residents of Quebec, then we can't let you use lottery proceeds for that purpose. Because the order in council says there has to be a direct benefit to the residents of Ontario. It does not mean that the proceeds have to be spent in Ontario. It just means we need to understand what that direct benefit to the residents of Ontario are. So for example, we could have a hospital foundation that raises a bunch of money, or you guys donate to a hospital foundation that will use those proceeds to buy equipment from Quebec and bring that equipment into a hospital here in Ontario, now gaining that access to the Ontario residents to be able to use that piece of equipment. So it's not a matter of just spending it in Ontario. We just need to understand what's the direct benefit to the residents of Ontario. So if you can help us answer those kinds of questions as well when you're submitting, if you've got a unique initiative that you want to support using lottery proceeds, come to us with this information already saying, well, here's the direct benefit to the residents of Ontario, and here's how it's a charitable program. Because in many cases, we would rather say yes than no. But we need to have the rationale and the details as to how to say yes. Because once we say yes, we may get questioned from mayor and council, why did we allow the proceeds to be used for that purpose? So we'll need the information, the rationale as to what you came up with to say this is why it's a direct benefit to the residents of Ontario, and here's how it's a charitable program. Okay? Okay, so here we have the licensing authority. So you can see on the left side of the screen, this is where you're going to go to the municipality to get a lottery license. If it's a regular bingo, how many people here do bingos? Okay, few. So if the regular bingo is up to $5,500 per event, then you're going to get the license from the municipality. Break open tickets, if it's sold in the community, in a third party, you could certainly sell break open tickets at a convenience store. They could sell the tickets on your behalf. That would be issued by the municipality. The raffles, if the prize board goes up to $50,000 in prizes, can be issued by the municipality. Any bazaar licenses or media bingos. Does anybody do media bingos here? Okay, I think there's a media bingo at Castleman I'm familiar with. The same process though is for media bingos, is just the delivery of the numbers through either radio or television or newspaper. But it's again $5,500 per bingo event. Okay. And you wanna do any of the licenses on the right side of the screen, then you're gonna have to apply to the AGCO. So those would be for any of the, if you wanted, those of you who do bingos, if you wanted to do what's called a super or special monster bingo, which means the prize board for that one event is greater than $5,500, like a $10,000 prize board, that license has to come to the AGCO, because it'd be a special or a monster bingo license. Provincial break-open tickets, we have about 51 provincial mandated charities that can get a license from the AGCO and sell in multiple municipalities throughout the province. So, for example, Canadian National Institute for the Blind can get one license from us, and they sell in about 40 different municipalities under that one single license, rather than having to go get 40 different licenses from 40 different municipalities and doing 40 different reports. We also issue all of the raffles if the prizes are greater than $50,000. So if you have a great deal on a brand new car, the car is worth $65,000, that license application has to come to us. And it's important to note when we're looking at raffles, we really go off of the value, or what we call the MSRP value, manufacturer suggested retail price, not so much the value that you're getting it for. So if somebody's gonna give you let's say a $5,000 television, but they're gonna give it to you for $3,000, the value of the prize is $5,000. So you need to go off of the value of the prize, what the MSRP value is, not what you get it for. All right? So we also do all electronic raffles. So does anybody do any electronic raffles here? Anybody experience any electronic raffles? Okay. Has anybody go to any kind of OHL games or hockey games where they're using the little handheld devices to? Okay, so those would be electronic raffles where the electronic device is actually creating the 50-50 ticket for you. The random number generator is creating all the raffle numbers. You'll get a printout from a portable printer, and then they'll give you your ticket, and then they'll do the draw. And the draw is done randomly as well, where they say these are the 1,000 or 100,000 raffle numbers that were sold, and randomly using an RNG, will then pull that one raffle number winner to say that's the raffle winner of the 50-50. Rather than having to have 100,000 raffle tickets into a drum and you spin the drum and have to pull one ticket out, it's just more of an electronic format to do the draw process. So we also do all the in conjunction events. So an in conjunction event is really if you have to buy one gaming product in order to purchase a second gaming product, then that license, the second license has to come to the AGCO. So for example, those of you who do bingos, if you wanted to do a loony pot or a super jackpot or a seal card break open ticket style game, in order to buy those gaming products, you have to buy the bingo paper. So you would get the bingo license from the municipality, but you would get the in conjunction license from the AGCO. We also do all the social gaming events, progressive bingos, fairs and exhibition licenses, and then we do licenses on both sides of the screen there when it's in an unorganized territory in the province where it's not governed by a municipal council. So we also do investigations of unlicensed lottery schemes. So AGCO and the municipalities are responsible for ensuring compliance. So if we issue a license, if AGCO issues it, we have to make sure that you're going to be compliant with the terms and conditions and run that raffle the way you're supposed to, or run that bingo the way you're supposed to, the way you applied for it. Same to municipalities. So if the municipality gives you a raffle license, they have to make sure that you ran the raffle according to the rules of play that you gave them in the application process. Say, I only charge this much for the tickets, I did the draw when I was supposed to, and I awarded the prizes that I said I was going to award. And the only way for us to be able to ensure that you ran it the way you said you were going to is to get the reports. And that's why it's so important for us to get those reports from you after you've run your lotteries, because that helps us understand that you've actually done all the things you said you were going to do, and you spent the money on the things you said you were going to spend the money on. Okay? So unlicensed lottery schemes, we get a lot of these kinds of calls and complaints from the general public about potential unlicensed lottery schemes. So those of you who do raffles, you know that part of the raffle requirements in terms and conditions state that if you're going to advertise it, you have to put the raffle license number in your advertisement. So if you see advertisements out there and there's no raffle license number on it, well then it's possible that it's not a legal lottery. and when I say we, I mean the municipality and the AGCO only have the authority to investigate licensed gaming. We do not have the authority to investigate unlicensed gaming. So if there is unlicensed gaming going on, we have to refer you to the local police. Because again, when we go back to that first screen, if it's a criminal offense, because there's no lottery license, no charitable organization, the responsibility to investigate criminal offenses falls to the local police. I'd be doing the exact same thing if you came to me and said, Rusty, I know exactly who the person is that's robbing all the Circle K's in town. I'd be like, great, go talk to the police, because I have no authority to investigate those types of things. Okay? And then the last thing is promotional contests. So sometimes some promotional contests can kind of look like a lottery scheme. When we look at that definition, the consideration or fee for a chance to win a prize. So when we look at things like the Tim Hortons roll up the ramp, or the McDonald's Monopoly game when they have the Monopoly going on, well, there's consideration or fee for a chance to win a prize. So how are these companies getting these lottery events to conduct and manage? The difference in those is that, generally speaking, promotional contests in your promotional rules of play will usually have a no purchase necessary component. So if you can look at the rules and say, okay, if I don't want to buy a coffee from Tim Hortons, how can I get a code so I can see if I win a free prize from Tim Hortons? And there'll be a process for them to outline in their promotional rules and say, here's how you have to do it free of charge. If you don't want to buy a product, here's how you can participate free of charge. So in those promotional contests, they've eliminated the chance part. So in essence, there is consideration or fee. There's no chance, but there is a prize. So therefore, it does not fall under the definition of a lottery scheme, and therefore doesn't need a lottery license. However, it does fall under a promotional contest and needs to comply with the Competition Act, which the different government agency that looks after promotional contests. So they make sure that you've got promotional rules of play outlined, again, for the general public to understand how do I participate in that promotional contest. So when we look at these things, whether it's promotional contests or whether it's lottery licenses, one of our biggest responsibilities is to make sure that we're here to protect the public. When you're given a lottery license to run a gambling event, whether it's raffles or bingos, we need to make sure that the general public is aware of how to participate and what prizes they're playing for, so that if there's an issue, the draw wasn't done properly or the prize was subbed out, we can fall back on the rules and the application to say, well, this is the requirement. I gave you a license for this. I need to protect the general public so that there's not prize substitution, or there's not, any kind of illegal things going on in the lottery license that I gave to the charity. Okay? So that's our big responsibility for us, is to make sure that we're there, because if there's a public complaint, it's generally because the charity deviated from the rules of play and didn't follow the rules that they created for that raffle or for the bingo. So if you're playing a bingo game and you're supposed to be playing for $1,000, and all of a sudden the charity says, well, we're going to lose $500 if we pay out $1,000, so we're just going to pay out $250 so that we can cover our costs. So everybody that's playing that game figures they're playing for $1,000 because that's what you promoted, but you can't change it after the fact. You can't just give them less money because you're going to lose money. So they would call us to complain because we issued the license. And we would then go to you and say, why did you change the price? You don't have the authority to change the price. So we would have to then say, well, you have to pay the public, the winner, that $1,000 prize, because that's what they're entitled to. So that's our big responsibility, is to make sure that the public is protected. Okay. So some of the responsibilities of the municipality are going to be conducting eligibility reviews of organizations, and then maintaining a core eligibility file. So every organization that gets a license from the municipality has submitted at one time your constituting documents, for eligibility purposes, to assess your board of directors, your list of your board of directors, programs that your organization runs. That's what we would have in a core eligibility file. All right. We also are responsible to review lottery applications, reports, and financial statements, enforcing and ensuring compliance with any license that it issued. Again, if we issue the license, we have to ensure compliance. And then ensuring the proceeds applied for and raised for are accounted for and used for the delivery of the licensee's charitable mandates. So, and one of the things that's, I know it's frustrating to do the reports, but some of the reports are really simple and straightforward. Those of you who do break-open tickets, who does break-open tickets here? Probably, you're the ones that probably have the most to complain about because the report's like 6 pages long. Okay, but when you're looking at a bingo report, very straightforward, and you should be able to do the bingo report during your bingo event. You can fill it all out, and complete it all, the prize we paid out, money we brought in. So by the end of the night, you're gonna know whether you balanced. So there really is no reason why you couldn't submit your report into us in a timely fashion. We give you 15 days after the event is done, to submit a report. Same with raffles. I mean, raffles are pretty simple and straightforward. How much did you sell? What were the prizes you paid out? What were the expenses to run the raffle? Gives you your net profit. And then what are you gonna use that net profit for? So there really is no reason or rationale as to why these reports shouldn't be done on a timely fashion and getting and submitted into us. But like anything else, and we can appreciate and understand and respect the fact that you guys are volunteers, this is not a job for you, although sometimes it probably feels like a second or third job. So it's important in any kind of relationship, and this is what we have, is relationships with our charities. If there's a problem and you can't get the reports into us, or you can't get the documentation into us for whatever reason, just reach out to us and let us know. Say, hey, Rusty, you know what, I'm supposed to get this report into you, but I'm looking for the bank deposits, or I have to get this from that person who's gonna give me this information, and I'll get that into you as soon as possible. Great, no problem, I can wait for that. I can give you a little bit of extra time and I can work with you as long as I know that you're not ignoring me. Because if you're ignoring me and I'm gonna have to start reaching out to charities or executive members to try and get this information, in my case, the first time I don't have those reports, but I'm supposed to, I start getting red flags go off because of my experience. I'm like, okay, well, is there some reason why they don't want me to know why the raffle didn't go very well or didn't work out? You know, I've seen certainly a lot of different types of unfortunate circumstances that have happened. You know, when I used to run bingo halls, I had a couple that were running the bingo halls in the commercial facility, and that was back many, many years ago when bingo was just almost like a license to print money. So I had these husband and wife that were running the charity for this one organization, and they would bring in all of the money and they would deposit the money that night. Let's say they're supposed to deposit $4,500. They would write a check to the pooling account for the $4,500, but they would only deposit $500 into the bank account. And they would keep $4,000. And then they would go to the bank when the bank deposits were finished and they were stamped formally. And then they would take a black pen and they would just put a 4 in front of the 5 on the deposit slip, match it up with the report, and then submit that showing it looks like it's a stamped bank, a bank stamped deposit slip for $4,500, matching what the report said. So unfortunately, nobody was really looking at the bank reconciliation by the organization before the organization was out over $100,000. So it's unfortunate that these things happen, and sometimes good people make bad decisions. But we need to understand if there's a problem, just let us know. Because sometimes good people can make bad decisions and not report those things in. Okay, so we need to make sure, and when we look at those things, if money that was supposed to, and let's just say it was $1,000, doesn't go into your charitable account to do your charitable programs, who is the overall real victim? The general public. Because the money that you raise from those lottery events that were going to be used for those programs, whether it's to donate to the food bank or whether it's to put money into the shelter to buy supplies for the shelter or to do a scholarship or bursary that's going to then help a young kid go to school, well, that money's not there. So really the general public is the victim in not getting those access to those funds. So it becomes our responsibility to make sure we understand where those things went, why they went where they went, okay? So that's why it's so important to get those reports, because then we can use those reports to make sure that we can defend the integrity of the organization. I had a personal experience where one of the organizations that we licensed was raising lots of money through break-open tickets, and it went through the news and got into the local newspapers, where the charity was buying gold bars. It's a good financial investment, but that's not what you can buy with lottery proceeds. And the question was, are they spending lottery proceeds on these gold bars? Because I had all of my documentation from the organization, I could defend, and we as the AGCO could defend that organization to say, no, they raised this much money and we can account for every penny in the charitable programs, that not 1 cent went to buying gold bars. So we were able to defend the integrity of the organization because that reporting was there. Now this made the newspaper, so it was certainly public knowledge. So it became a real challenge. If we didn't have those reports, we could not have defended the integrity of the organization. Okay, so it's very important. I can't stress it enough. It's necessary for you to get those reports into us in a timely fashion. But if you need more time, there is flexibility. Just let us know that you need some extra time or some extra help in gathering up those resources. Okay? So AGCO's responsibilities is to issue all the provincial licenses. So all the things that the municipality is responsible for issuing their licenses, we have that same responsibility for ours. We also regulate the gaming industry and the supplies that supplies goods and services. So all of the registered businesses like the convenience stores, the casino staff, the bingo halls, the break open ticket bingo suppliers, the paper suppliers. All those companies and their employees have to be registered by us under the Gaming Control Act. We put them through a significant background check. We have a number of OPP officers that are seconded to us to be able to do background checks and interviews to try and ensure that when you're dealing with people in a registered company, that they're going to operate with honesty and integrity. We also established the gaming policies and the standard terms and conditions for all the licensing in the province. So in the policy manual, those are AGCO's policies. The municipality has the responsibility to enforce our policies. So if you're not happy with the 6-page report for break open tickets, you complain to us. Because we're the ones that can change the report. The municipality cannot change the report. The municipality cannot change the policies. They can make the policies a little stricter if they want. So for example, if you have a consistent habit of not submitting your raffle reports within 30 days, they could say, well, we're going to give you 15 days. So they could make it a little bit tighter, a little bit more restrictive. But what they cannot do is they can't say, well, you can get me your report in 180 days. Because the terms and conditions say you're going to get them within 30 days. Okay, so they can't change our policies, they have to enforce our policies. And then we develop all of the prescribed application and report forms for charitable gaming. Now, if you have suggestions or ideas or things to make the process a little bit easier, by all means, you can submit that information into us and say, well, this would be simpler if we didn't have to do these things. Now, for example, the break open tickets, those of you who sell break open tickets, we do have a process where you can hire a gaming-related supplier, a registered company under the GCA, to help you do your reporting. They'll charge you money for it, but at least you'll still make money and you'll get some expertise and some people who can actually help you build a report for you. Okay? But if you have any concerns over the policies or concerns over new ideas or new lottery events to create and submit, those all have to be submitted to the AGCO. You can talk to your municipality about them and potentially submit them through the municipality to us if you'd like. And again, we don't sit down in Toronto with the AGCO and say, okay, well, let's try to come up with a new raffle concept. What do we want to do this year? We don't do those things. We really need to get the feedback from the charities. We did not want to necessarily create the Catch the Ace raffle framework, but we had a lot of charitable public pressure to say, why do they do these in Nova Scotia and in New Brunswick to huge success when we can't do it here? So we said, okay, well, let's create a Catch the Ace framework. Same with the electronic raffles. You know, we didn't just say, well, let's do the electronic raffles. We had charities push for the electronic raffles. So you can make change by submitting those details and saying, I'd like to see this different, or can we make this better, a little bit easier? Okay. We also have the provincial enforcement and compliance. We do have an investigation and enforcement department, both from an OPP. Like I said, we have about 200 OPP officers that are seconded to the AGCO to help us with overseeing all the different lines of business. And we have a lot of businesses that we're regulating now. We regulate the gaming, charitable gaming and commercial gaming and iGaming. We also regulate the cannabis industry. We regulate the Liquor Licensing Act and all of the convenience stores that are now able to sell liquor and alcohol, all the SOPs. We also do the horse racing as well. So we have a lot of different lines of business And that's where it's beneficial for us to have OPP officers that are seconded to us, because as many times as I ask, they won't give me a gun and a badge to be able to lay charges against people. But that's where I don't have the skills to do criminal investigations, where that's where the OPP can step in and lay charges if necessary, and a whole host of different skills and abilities and authorities that they have in circumstances where they're needed. But we do have also compliance officials that will go out and around the province to do inspections of liquor licenses, you know, all of the bars and restaurants that have a liquor license to sell alcohol. We have compliance officials that will go out and make sure that they're selling it properly and looking after the residents in the community that are purchasing the alcohol. They're not serving them. If they're over serving them, they could lose their liquor license. I'm sure some of you have heard through the news from time to time where liquor licenses have been suspended or revoked from bars and establishments because of over serving or other reasons. So we also have an audit and investigative department where auditors, we have people who can track various monies, whether it's from casino gaming or whether it's internet gaming or even in charitable gaming. So if there's a situation where we have organizations where their money just can't be found anymore, because in many cases, and this is not uncommon throughout the whole province of Ontario, I've done lots of these sessions and talked to lots of charities, whereas the charity has, you know, one, maybe two people within their organization that are responsible for running all the lotteries. You know, they're nominated one year and they say, okay, I'll step up and do it. And then, you know, 5 or 6 years later, you're saying, okay, is somebody else gonna do this? No. Okay, so another 5 or 6 years later go by, is somebody else gonna pick this up now? No. So it ends up happening where it's usually the same people who are always running these kinds of events, right? So in some cases where if there's money missing, we can assist the municipality in doing an audit or investigation, okay? If there's money being spent on things, and it's important to note, if you spend money on an issue or an item or a program or service that was not approved by the municipality under your license, they do have the authority to tell you to put the money back. Okay? I had a situation where I issued an electronic raffle license to a hockey association. I won't tell you where, but they were donating the money from that lottery event. They promoted it in their venue, that all of the money from tonight's 50-50 event was going to go to the Humboldt Broncos Foundation. They didn't ask me if they could do that. They didn't submit that in their application to do that, because I would have told them, you can't donate the money from lottery proceeds to the Humboldt Broncos Foundation. Because the order of council says it's got to be a direct benefit to the residents of Ontario. So I couldn't do that, but they didn't ask me. They just promoted it and raised over $10,000 and then donated it. And of course, I find out after the fact, they've already donated the money to the Humboldt Broncos Foundation, which is very, very worthwhile cause. But I had to tell the charity, you didn't ask me if you could do that. It wasn't in your application. So you got to put the money back. And they're like, well, it's over $10,000. I don't care. You got to put the money back from your general account back into the lottery trust account. And they called me all sorts of names on the phone, and they were not very happy with me at all. Did not make their Christmas card list. But the first thing they did was they complained to their MPP. So the MPP then contacted the Ministry of the Attorney General, which is who we reported to. Through the Ministry of the Attorney General, contacted the registrar, my boss's 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 boss, and it filtered down to me. And of course I said, well, the order of council says it's got to be a direct benefit to the residents of Ontario. They didn't ask for this, so therefore that's why they have to put the money back. So the formal response went back up through our chain to the Attorney General, back over to the MPP's office, back to the charity, who had to return the money. So this is one of those situations where I'm not wanting to tell you what to spend your money on, and Leanne's not going to tell you what to spend your money on. We're not going to help debate with you whether it's better to spend it on this versus that. You can spend the money and use it for the charitable programs that you want to see fit. We just need to make sure that we approve them in advance, so that way we know that they fit within the framework, that it's for a charitable program, and there's a direct benefit to the residents of Ontario. Okay? It's better to ask for permission than forgiveness in this situation. Okay? So this is the suspension or cancellation of lottery licenses. This is the adage I use. My mom used to tell me this all the time. She brought me into the world. She can take me out whenever she wants. This is the same kind of premise here, is that the order of council that gives the municipalities or the agency or the authority to issue you a license gives us that same authority to take away that license, or to take away any other license that we've given you. So if you breached the raffle terms and conditions, and you also have a bingo license, I can suspend both and take away both licenses. So it's important to make sure that you understand that this is, and there's rationale as to why we're doing these. And the reason we do these, it's gonna be extreme. Like if I'm trying to contact you to find out information about an event that you ran, and you're avoiding me, you're not calling me back, you're not giving me an email back, you're not letting me know why, and I keep calling you and calling you and calling you or emailing you, I'm gonna wonder, why aren't you notifying me? Why aren't you getting back to me? So I may end up suspending or canceling. If there's been any breach of the term and condition, like if I find out your organization is selling tickets to 12-year-olds, well, that's a breach. You shouldn't be trying to sell tickets to 12-year-old kids. But that's against the law. If there's reasonable grounds to believe the licensee will not conduct the event with honesty and integrity. So let's say you wanted to, for example, you had a raffle draw that was supposed to be done this Saturday for a $5,000 high definition television, but your organization was gonna lose money if you do it this Saturday. So you decide you wanna extend the draw date, or, you know what, I know I have this 19-inch black and white TV that I can donate to the charity, we could just raffle that off instead. You can't substitute the prize because the people bought the ticket based on the $5,000 value television. So that would be operating without honesty and integrity. If it's in the public interest to do so, and then failing to submit financial reports related to the conduct of any lottery event. So in this case, if you're not submitting the reports to us, the last thing I want to do is to give you more licenses to raise more money that I can't track. So it's important for us to get those licenses, or sorry, the reports for the licenses that we give you. And again, it's all about communication. So if you need some extra time, a quick email to us or a quick phone call to say, hey, this is, I'm trying to get this stuff in, and I'll get it into you on Monday, or I'll get it into you next week, I promise. I know at least then you're not ignoring me. But if I've got to chase you down for 6 months and you keep dodging my calls and dodging my emails, I don't have any confidence that the report's going to be accurate, or that it's going to be, you know, really telling me all the things I needed to tell you. Because I'll have those red flags going off as to what don't you want me to know. So eligibility for an organization. So we look at, they must demonstrate that they are a charitable or religious organization providing programs and services that are charitable. They provide a public benefit to the residents of Ontario, have been in existence for at least a year and providing services for that year, not using lottery proceeds as startup funds, and must be legally, organizationally, and financially separate from other organizations. So these are some of the criteria that we're looked at when we kind of review your constituting documents when doing an eligibility review. So these are some of the examples of the things that we'll look at that would be in that core eligibility file for your charity. Would be your constituting documents, including any bylaws. Now, a constitution can be 2 or 3 pages long, or it can be 20 pages long, or it can be 200 pages long. There's no real format for a formalized constituting document. It's going to have some detailed program descriptions, and usually in those program descriptions, they're going to be linked back to your organization's vision or mission statement to say, this is what why are we in existence? That's going to be outlined in your constitution, saying, how do I become a member? How do I have the directors? Do I have 4-year directors? Do I have 2-year directors? Is it a secretary treasurer role that's combined, or is it 2 separate roles? How do we elect our members or our executive? All that stuff will be outlined in the Constitution. But the programs in the description should then link back to that vision statement or mission of your organization. So for example, if I have a baseball association that wants to rent the ice at the local hockey arena, like, okay, well, why do you want to rent the ice when you're baseball? Or vice versa. You just need to understand how that program connects to your charitable mandate. Okay? Previous financial statements, current list of board of directors. Now, one of the things that will always get forgotten is that every year, organizations usually have an election. And many of those years, the election occurs and the executive is the exact same people that was there last year. And that's okay. But what's important is that if you get lottery licenses from the municipality, you should be sending in a list of the updated board of directors. Once you've done your annual elections, here's our new board of directors, here's their contact information. Just shoot an email in to me and say, okay, here's our new board of directors that were elected 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago or whatever, so that we have an updated list of who your board of directors are. Okay? Also, the detail of the proposed use of lottery proceeds, and it's important to note as well, if you've got a program or an initiative that requires you to save up the money, like let's say you wanted to buy an MRI machine, or a hospital foundation was wanting to buy an MRI machine, they're very expensive. So if you need to come up with $100,000 for that charitable initiative, which is probably undercutting the cost of an MRI machine, but it's okay to leave the money in your lottery trust account until you raise up the money that you need for that particular initiative. Okay? The proceeds should be used, there's no timetable, we don't have a specific set of guidelines to say you must use the lottery proceeds within 2 months of raising them, but they need to be used in a reasonable amount of time. So lottery proceeds cannot be raised for rainy day funds, because there is no direct benefit to the residents of Ontario for a rainy day fund. And it's important to note that when you raise funds under a lottery license, the funds are not the charitable organization's money. It is actually, in fact, the public's money. You're the entrusted with it. That's why the lottery proceeds have to go into a trust account, because they're the public's money. They're for the direct benefit to the residents of Ontario. You get to pick and choose the programs that are charitable to support, but they're still the public's money. Okay? And if there's any other documentation that we request for the eligibility purposes, we need to provide those to us. Now, if you change your constituting documents, that's okay. They're your organization's constituting documents. You can change them whenever you need to, as long as you go through the process of your constituting and and you have enough members and everybody has to vote. They're your constituting documents, but if you do change them, you need to submit those new documents into us so that we have an updated version of what your constitution looks like on file. So in that core eligibility file, we've got your most updated current student constitution or bylaws. Okay? Sometimes we've had organizations where they've merged, right? Where 2 organizations say, okay, we're not making it on our own, you're not making it on your own, let's form a new organization together and we'll be stronger together. So they come up with a new name, all those things, that's great, but now there's some maybe new constitution that has to be created for that purpose. So we can't just take both the old constitutions, we need a copy of that new constitution. All right? So here is the list of the categories of eligibility that are outlined in the policy manual. I'm not going to go through every category and give a description of every category. These are some of these are all the categories that are in the policy manual if you want to kind of look them up and do some research. But each of your organizations needs to fall into the eligibility criteria of at least one of these categories. If you find that your organization does not fit into one of these categories, then you shouldn't be licensed. Okay? It's important to also explain how many charities here are registered with the Canadian Revenue Agency. Yeah? Okay. So registration with the Canadian Revenue Agency is the criteria that they use for determining eligibility is under the Income Tax Act, giving you special privileges or special authorities to issue tax receipts for people who donate to the organization. You get tax exemptions, a bunch of things under the Income Tax Act. An organization that is registered under the CRA, under the Income Tax Act, does not guarantee eligibility for criteria for lottery licensing. So it's important to understand because, for example, municipalities can be registered as charitable organizations under the Income Tax Act. But I can tell you municipalities are not going to fall in any of these categories. Okay? So when we look at relief of poverty or advancement of education, advancement of religion, again, you can fall into multiple categories. Like you could have, for example, a food bank. A food bank would fall into potentially the relief of poverty. Or you could have a school that's running a program that is for relief of poverty. Maybe they have a breakfast program for kids that are wanting to have a nice hot breakfast or a hot lunch. So the advancement of education is where they fall under the category, but the program itself may fall under relief of poverty. Okay? So as long as you fit into one of these categories, then you can certainly be eligible. We'll do the questions at the end, okay? Okay. So then when we look at ineligible organizations, we've got, if they fit into one of these categories, if it's a profit-making entity, then it's not eligible for lottery license because it's not charitable, okay? There is a distinction as well between a not-for-profit entity or not-for-profit organization. The not-for-profit organization must have charitable programs and services to be eligible for lottery licensing. Not-for-profit entities may be very much eligible under the Income Tax Act to get registered as a charitable entity, but they may not fall under a category here where they are a category for eligibility for lottery licensing if they don't have any charitable programs and services. We also have, if they don't have, that's the one there, don't have a charitable purpose. Organizations established for the purpose of adult recreation. So as much as I try and get my beer league hockey association into lottery licensing, it's because it's not eligible, it's for adult recreation. When we look at the categories of eligibility, you've got your amateur sports organizations. So now we're looking at kids under the age of 18. We've got to be amateur, okay? Those established for the purposes of tourism and other activities that are purely economic in nature are not going to be eligible for lottery licensing. Subgroups or auxiliary groups aren't going to be eligible. Municipalities, their agencies or committees are not eligible. So for example, the Parks and Rec Department, they may have programs that are for youth, for kids to go to camp and stuff like that, basketball programs and everything else. Those programs, because they're under the control of the guidance and the management of the municipality, they're not eligible for lottery licensing. And then organizations established solely for the purposes of fundraising would not be eligible for lottery licensing. So here's some of the ineligible uses of lottery proceeds. For any administrative or operational costs not directly related to the carrying out of the charitable mandate. So when we look at this, if you can connect your operational costs or your operational facility to delivering charitable programs and services, then it can be eligible for some of the lottery proceeds. And it could even be a percentage. So if, let's say, for example, a percentage of your facility is being used for charitable programs, then a percentage of your operational costs could be covered by lottery proceeds. We would link that percentage to the same number. So if 20% of your facility is used for charitable programs, then maybe 20% of your operational costs can be paid for by lottery proceeds, because there's a direct correlation to the two. So you can't use lottery proceeds for fundraising. Now, when we look at the difference between fundraising and lottery proceeds, there is a distinction and there is a big difference. So we talk about lottery licensing that you guys have been listening to for the last hour and a bit from me. Yes, I know it's only been an hour, it probably seems like 3. But there's a difference between fundraising and lottery proceeds. Fundraising monies would be like a car wash, or when you're selling chocolate bars, or you're doing the bottle drives, all those kinds of initiatives, things like that are fundraising initiatives. That would be money goes into your general account. So those funds would not be under the guidelines of for charitable programs and services. Another big example of that would be silent auctions. So if you wanted to do a silent auction doesn't have all 3 of those elements. A traditional silent auction doesn't have all 3 of the elements of the lottery scheme because there's no chance. You know, if you're in a silent auction, you can go up to the table and say, oh, somebody's bid $50, I'll bid $55. There's no chance involved in that. Just whether or not I choose to spend more money than the person before me. So those types of fundraising initiatives would go into your general account. Okay? Political activities, core programs and services that are not charitable, construction and renovation of buildings that do not serve a charitable purpose and are not owned by a nonprofit charitable organization. So what we cannot let you do is use lottery proceeds to enhance somebody else's building. So if I owned a building and I rented the space out to a charitable organization, I can't let them use that money from their lottery proceeds to enhance my building, to make it bigger, or to enhance some of the facilities within my building, because the building is owned by a personal person, like it's a private entity that owns the building. Similarly, we wouldn't let you use lottery proceeds to enhance, municipal buildings. Like you couldn't spend money if you're a hockey association on upgrading the hockey arena because it's municipally owned. Okay? Now, if the organization owns the facility, then you certainly could use lottery proceeds to help enhance the facility if you're providing those services. So for example, if a food bank owned the building that they're in, and they wanted to expand, or they wanted to put in shelving, or they wanted to do various things to enhance the experience at the food bank, and they owned the building, the lottery proceeds could go towards enhancing that building. Same with a church, you know, again, a church would want to renovate or enhance the church to make the experience in church a little bit better. That's okay, because they own that facility. All right. Donations to ineligible organizations. A lot of organizations will donate or have it in their mandate to donate to other groups. The purpose of the lottery proceeds when they're raised doesn't change until it's used to deliver a charitable program. So if a service club, Legion, Lions Club, Rotary Club, whomever, raises money and they want to donate the money to the food bank has to use those lottery proceeds for charitable or religious programs and services, because they're still lottery proceeds. You raised them, you gave them to the organization, that organization has to be eligible to receive lottery proceeds. So you could not just say, here municipality, here's $5,000 so you can pay for your Parks and Rec department to have all the kids play basketball or soccer or baseball. Because the municipality is not an eligible organization to receive those funds. You can, however, pay the municipality, if you're a hockey association, you can use it to pay for ice fees. Because using the ice, you're now delivering on the charitable mandate of your organization. So you can pay for services, you just couldn't donate the money to the municipality. Okay? Providing personal benefit or gain or supporting tourism or other purely economic benefits are all things that lottery proceeds should not be used for. So here's the responsibilities of licensees. So this is what you folks are going to be responsible for. You're going to have to, for the managing conduct of the lottery event under the criminal code, making sure all your eligibility and use of proceed documentation is submitted to the licensing authority. Now, if you're getting the license, and when we look at managing conduct, the biggest challenge for managing conduct falls within raffles. Because when we think of managing conduct, think of the managing part is where you're selling the tickets, and the conduct part is where you're conducting the draw, where you're going to run the draw. So if you're selling tickets and you're running the draw in this municipality, you got to get the license here. But the license is only good for within the municipal boundaries. So if you wanted to sell tickets in other municipalities, you need to get permission from those other municipalities to sell your tickets there. But if you wanted to go into a neighboring municipality to sell break-open tickets in a convenience store, then where the managing conduct, where the tickets are being sold and the prizes are being awarded, is in that other municipality, you have to go and get the license from that other municipality. So if Leanne is the one who normally gives you your licenses, she cannot give you a license to be conducting a raffle in Ottawa. You have to go to the city of Ottawa and get a license from them. Okay? Also, you're going to ensure properly completed application forms, license fees, report forms, and financial statements and other documentation are submitted in a timely manner. We've talked about that at length already. So one of the challenging parts for you folks is going to be the amount of, or the volume of terms and conditions that we have for lottery licenses. So I'm hoping to try and break it down for you to make it a little bit simpler. We have this set of terms and conditions, which we call the lottery license terms and conditions, that apply to all lottery licenses. Okay, so these are like general lottery terms and conditions that apply to raffles, bingos, break-open tickets, and bazaars, fairs and exhibitions. All the types of lotteries that are available, the lottery terms and conditions apply to those. And then each of the unique styles of lotteries have their own set of terms and conditions that would be specific for a raffle or a bingo or a break-open ticket. So if you do a bingo license or you get a bingo license, you have to comply with the lottery terms and conditions, and the bingo terms and conditions, and the financial management terms and conditions. Financial ones talk about bank accounts and what you can spend your money on, how to do electronic funds transfers, those kinds of things. If you're going to do a raffle license, you have to comply with the raffle terms and conditions, you have to comply with the lottery terms and conditions, and then those financial terms and conditions. So you need to understand when you're doing a license, some of the terms are going to be generic that you're going to have to comply with throughout, but some of them are going to be specific. For example, a bingo report, you have to submit that 15 days after you do the bingo event. Whereas raffles, you've got 30 days after the raffle event is done before you have to submit the report there. So there is some nuances and some differences from license to license. So you just need to understand what those are. Okay? But all the terms and conditions are available on the AGCO website as well. And you can even go into the search engine to say, you know, bingo terms and conditions or raffle terms and conditions, and it should pull them up fairly quickly for you. That you can read them and understand them and make sure that you comply with them. Conduct of the event. So this is one of the biggest challenges in my experiences that charities have in running the event. Is how do we run these things? No person involved in the conduct of the event can play games during the event. So this really goes to the heart of the honesty and integrity of not only the members that are running the event, but also the organization, okay? And what usually gets me into a lot of trouble with charities is that when I advise them, executive members of the organization should not be participating in any lottery scheme at all. So if you're a member of an executive, you shouldn't be buying raffle tickets, because overarchingly, the license is in the name of the organization. And the organization is run ultimately by the executive. So if I was just a bona fide member, if I'm just a general member, but I'm running the raffle, and I have Leanne come to me and say, I'm the secretary, and you're gonna run the raffle this way, I don't have any choice, because she's an executive member. Because the executive members can override and take on the managing conduct of the lottery events, they should never be buying the raffle tickets, or they shouldn't be buying the bingo cards, or they shouldn't be buying the breakable tickets. So you shouldn't be participating in the lottery. Because the last thing you really want to do is draw your own name when you're doing the raffle draw and say, oh, look, I won the $5,000 television. I know exactly where I want to put that in my home. People are going to then just question the integrity of that draw. Right? So it's really important, and that's where the charities will find the challenges addressing these conflicts of interest. You guys work really hard to try and make this as good as it possibly can. And then sometimes, even despite all your efforts, you could still have somebody question the integrity of the draw. I had an organization who was running a Catch the Ace, and certainly Catch the Ace is near and dear to my heart because I launched it in Ontario and created the framework for it. And it was a great opportunity for charities. Does anybody here run a Catch the Ace? Okay, well, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second as to what exactly that is. So the organization ran it, it's a progressive raffle. So they ran this event and they were running it, and it was very successful. The progressive jackpot was over $17,000 issued by the municipality. So it was a $17,000 prize. And when the prize was drawn, the winner was the wife of one of the bona fide members who was running the event. So she was not a member of the club at all, but she bought a ticket, no different than anybody else. But because she was married to the person who won it, there was questions of integrity that, of course, she knew exactly where the ace of spades was because she's sleeping with the guy that's running the raffle. So we got complaints and we had to investigate. The municipality called us up and said, we need some help on how to investigate this. So we investigated it, found out the wife had bought 5 different tickets for that raffle and had 5 different envelope numbers on that. And so it was impossible for that. And it was a third person that drew the ticket in, who had no affiliation to the wife or the husband at all. So at the end of the day, we were confident, and so was the OPP during our investigation. There was no criminal act, there was no integrity issue. The draw was the draw. However, until such time as that investigation was done, that bona fide member felt horrible because, of course, the backlash in the local community was, I'm not a cheater. I didn't cheat this. I didn't try and, my wife didn't steal this. But there was a lot of speculation, a lot of people criticizing. So here was this bona fide member working hard for weeks after weeks after weeks to try and raise money to do the great things that the charity does, only to have one thing unfortunate happen, fortunate in one sense, but unfortunate in another, and question the integrity of the draw process. So really, it soured that volunteer who then, after the investigation was done, dropped out of the club and is no longer a volunteer or a bona fide member of that organization. So it's unfortunate. So these are some of the pitfalls that that you guys face when you start looking and saying, okay, I want to run a raffle. If it's a $10,000 raffle or a $15,000 prize, and you don't award it to the right person, that's going to be difficult to try and figure out how am I going to deal with this. If it's a $100 prize, probably a lot easier to sweep under the rug, right? It's not going to be as big of a spotlight on you than if it's $1,000 or if it's $10,000 or if it's $50,000. So when you start doing these events, and these are great opportunities to raise money, to do great things, but you need to understand there's got to be, that's why we ask for the rules of play. That's why we ask for the reports. That's why we ask for how you want to run these, and you've got to run them that way, because if you don't, as soon as you start deviating, that's when you open yourself up to criticism and speculation that things weren't done the way they're supposed to be done. And they were decided to be done differently to try and benefit the people who are running the draws, which was never the case. So you just want to make sure that you're avoiding those conflict of interest situations and comply with the rules. And when you submit the rules to us and say, this is how I want to run the raffle or the bingo, this is how I want to run the bingo, then that's how you're going to run it. You're going to do those games and you're going to award those prizes. Okay? The licensee shall award the prizes as approved in the application regardless of whether it's profitable or not. There is only one style of lottery that is a guaranteed moneymaker. Usually what I do in this instance is I open the floor to see suggestions from people, but because we're doing the questions at the end and we're doing streaming, I can't get them involved in this, but so I'll just tell you what it is. A lot of people think the guaranteed moneymaker is a 50-50. Just because based on the way it is, I should be able to make money on 50-50. And the answer is incorrect. Because in a 50-50, I could say a 50-50 in here, I spent $1,000 to rent this facility. I also spent $2,000 to advertise it. And then I sold $1,000 worth of tickets. I'm giving out $500 in prizes, but I got $3,000 in operating expenses. So I'm losing money on that 50-50. So the only guaranteed revenue generator to make money for charities is break open tickets. Because the way the break open tickets are set up and designed is that when you sell one box of tickets, the charity is guaranteed to make a certain amount of money in profit. Because the prizes are set, the boxes, the number of tickets in a box are set. So it's guaranteed the charity will make at least 30% profit from that box of tickets. The problem with break open tickets though, is that you don't know how long it's going to take you to make that box of ticket sales profit. You could sell it in a week, you make money real quick, or it could take you 3 months to sell that one box of break open tickets, and it just is not worth it to make that $300 over 3 months. So the break open tickets are the only guaranteed revenue generator, but it's hard to kind of gauge how long it will take to generate that revenue. All the expenses shall be deducted from the gross receipts. So sometimes some charities have tried to get creative by saying, okay, if I've sold $1,000 worth of raffle tickets and it's a 50-50, I'm going to take my $200 of operating costs off the gross, and then I'm going to divide the $800 50-50 and give the winner $400. That's not the way it works. So you have to take the gross sales, and the expenses come off the charity share, not off of the gross ticket sales. Okay? Expenses shall be paid by check from the lottery trust account, supported by invoices and receipts. All of the things that go through the lottery trust account, you need to make sure you've got the documentation for it. You should have the receipts for all the things that you have to purchase. You should be able to provide any of the check stubs for the things that you write the checks for. They should all be in your accounts. Licensees shall comply with the terms and conditions of the expense limits. So in the raffles, there is no expense maximums in raffles, but there are expense maximums in bingos and break open tickets. You have to make sure you comply with those expense maximums. So, as I said earlier, chapter 5 of the policy manual talks about all the different types of raffles. There's actually a slide that'll come up that will tell you the different types of raffles that we have in the policy manual. But as it's a type of scheme or that is usually identified by the method of determining the winner, raffle schemes where the outcome is not completely determined by chance or those by a mixture of chance and skill cannot be licensed or conducted. And as a raffle is a type of lottery, it must be licensed regardless of the size of the prize. So if you wanted to do a $25 raffle, I know there was an urban myth that was going around. Some charities were saying, well, I understand if the prize is under $100, I don't need a license for it. Or if I charge less than $1 for the raffle ticket, I don't have to get a license for it. That is false. It's not true at all. The criminal code doesn't differentiate between those. It just says if there's consideration or a fee for a chance to win a prize, then you need to get a license for it. Similarly, there you can see in the bottom, if it's whether it's open to the public in accordance with the criminal code. So I've had some service clubs that said, well, if I do a raffle during a service club meeting, it's only members only. Do I need a license for it? And my answer to you is if you want to do it legally, get a license for it. Because technically, criminal code doesn't say if it's a private meeting, you don't need a license. It says if there's consideration or fee for a chance to win a prize, get a license. Okay? More times than not, if you're going to run these events without a license, it's probably not going to come to our attention until somebody complains about it. As soon as somebody complains about it, then it's going to have to get investigated. And that's generally what's going to happen. A lot of times we have to get involved is when there's a complaint about something that was done wrong. If it's illegal or if there's no license to it, we send that person to the local police. Okay? So here's all those types of licensable schemes. As I said to you, there's on the left side of the screen here, you've got all the different, these are all outlined in the policy manual. So if you're looking for a new type of raffle that you want to run, these are all detailed in the policy manual that you can figure out how to run it, how it would work for your organization, would it make you good money or is it different? And then describe how to run them. The ones on the right-hand side are some of the ideas and the concepts that people have come to us and said, can we run this type of raffle? And the answer is no, because it's not outlined in the policy manual. So we look at things like the jalopy dive. Those would be events where a charity wanted to roll a vehicle out onto the ice and raffle off which day it falls through the ice. We don't do those types of events. Non-fixed value draw, those would be things like if there's no value to the prize. So when you get a $1,000 television donated to your organization, you can't say the value of the prize is 0. It's gotta have an MSRP value. There has to be a value to the prize, and you've got to be able to sometimes validate why that prize is worth that much money. So for example, if you come to me and say, I've got a $5,000 quilt that I want to raffle off, I'm going to ask you, well, what makes it a $5,000 quilt? How did you determine that value? Is it Egyptian silk? Is it just wool? Is it just somebody in the community who's knitted a blanket? And if that's the case, great, but I can't say that that's worth $5,000 because when you're promoting that to the general public, that it's a $5,000 quilt, you got to have the justification as to why. Okay, so sometimes we may need to ask you for an assessment, a third-party assessment to the value of those items. Sports pools are not licensable. Throwing a hockey puck or balls to a designated spot, we don't have a license for those types of events. Guessing the number of items in a container, like a jelly bean jar contest, we don't have licenses for those because some people are more mathematically inclined to be able to see and have an advantage in running those kinds of events. Scratch and win, these are some of the, there's organizations out there in other parts of the world that will sell raffle tickets in a scratch and win concept, where they say, we'll give you this package for $100 and you go sell the raffle tickets, and on the scratching part, it'll say what the cost of the ticket is. And once you sell all these tickets, it'll guarantee your charity will make this much money if you award this prize. Those types of scratch and win type raffles are not licensable here in Ontario because those companies are not registered under the Gaming Control Act by us. So even if you find those online, don't order them for your organization and try and run them, thinking that you're going to guarantee yourself X amount of profit once you sell all those tickets, because you can't get a license for it. Also, the raffles by donation. So these would be an idea where, let's say the food bank wanted to do a raffle, and I'll give you a raffle ticket for every bag of food that you bring in. So Leanne comes in and she's got a great big bag of food with like 40 cans of food in it. She gets one raffle ticket. I come in right behind her and I got 40 different bags with 1 can of food in every bag. Now I want 40 raffle tickets. So the same donation, I'm getting 40 tickets and Leanne's only getting 1. So we don't allow for raffles by donation, where people can just say, I'll give you a raffle ticket as long as you donate a certain amount of money to us. You can donate more if you want. When we do raffles, it's important to note that everybody who participates in a raffle needs to be aware of they can participate for the same price as everybody else. So if you're going to offer discounts, that discount has to be able to be offered to everybody that wants to buy a ticket. That's why on the tickets we require you to put the cost of those tickets. Okay, so we don't allow the raffle by donation. And then the 649 doesn't mean that OLG is running an illegal lottery. It just means that there are some organizations out there that want to do raffle events based on numbers or time clocks. So you may have a hockey association that says, we're going to raffle off the, whoever scores the first goal will be the time. So you got to pick the time, and then when the first goal is going to be scored. Those kinds of things are not licensable. Okay, we don't allow those types of raffles to be licensed. Okay, so catch the ace. So nobody here does catch the ace, right? Disappointing. Maybe there's people online that do. I'm gonna go with that. So, but a catch the ace is just a progressive style 50-50. Okay, so just think of a normal 50-50 raffle, and the 50% prize that you would normally award gets split up into 2 different pots. One is the guaranteed prize that's going to be given to the person who won that week. The other prize is going to be the progressive amount of prize. Okay, the 30%. So you do it 20% and 30% is the 50. Okay. So let's say, for example, first week, what we're going to do is we're going to run a catch the ace here. So before that, before we sell the tickets, I'm going to take 52 playing cards, so a regular deck of cards. I'm gonna take those cards, I'm gonna put one card in an envelope that you can't hold up to a light and see through it. And then I'm gonna seal that envelope, shuffle it with the other 52, so I've now got 52 sealed envelopes, and then I'm gonna number them from 1 to 52. Everybody with me so far? Okay, so I take those envelopes and I put them up on the wall from 1 to 52, and you can see the numbers, so you're picking an envelope. So I run the raffle, and we sell $1,000 worth of tickets here tonight. So now I've got, it's a 50-50 concept, so 20% is going to the winner of tonight's draw, and 30% goes to the progressive pot. So the winners of tonight's draw is gonna get $200 and have a shot at that $300, that extra prize. So it's like a 2-tiered prize. So the first draw I do is I pull out Leanne's name. So Leanne wins $200, and then she can pick one of those envelopes. If the envelope she picked is number 10, and in that envelope, we open it up and it's got the ace of spades in it, then Leanne would also win the catch the ace, and she would win the $300 prize as well. So she won $500 from tonight's draw. If that envelope that was open only had the 2 of diamonds, she still wins her $200, but now the $300 does not get awarded. So then we do another draw a week later, we sell another $1,000 worth of tickets, and now I'm gonna do the draw and Todd wins. Now Todd's got $200 in his pocket, but now there's only 51 envelopes. So he picks envelope number 1. And if it's the ace of spades, he wins $600 on top of his 200. He wins 300 from this week and the 300 from last week that Leanne didn't win. So, and if it's not, well, now $600 moves forward to next week. So the beauty of the catch the ace is that it creates a progressive prize that gets bigger and bigger and bigger as the weeks go along, but the odds of winning get better and better for the public. Because now you go 51 envelopes, then 50, then 49, 48, 47, all the way down to envelope number 1. And if you get to envelope number 1, you better hope the ace of spades is in that envelope. Okay? Now I've had it, and it's been a very big success in both small communities, medium communities, and large communities, where charities have done really, really well running these progressive style raffles. A catch the ace can be very successful in running the event. If you're going to do it at a municipal level, though, keep in mind the municipality can only issue up to $50,000 in prizes. That's the 20% and the 30% added together. That means your progressive prize on a municipal license cannot exceed $30,000. Still not a bad chunk of money to win, but that's what you have to, so in a municipal license, you have to then go and decide $100,000 divided by the number of weeks, divided by the amount of tickets that you want to charge, to give you how many tickets you can sell on a weekly basis. Because you cannot sell more than $100,000 in tickets. And if you're not tracking it, you're not monitoring it, it's easy for it to get you'll lose sight of it, and you'll just be selling tickets like crazy because you're just working hard to sell as much as you can. All of a sudden, you got a progressive pot that's worth $50,000, which means you've now breached the terms and conditions of the municipal license. And that license should have gone to the AGCO. Okay? So it certainly is an opportunity and an option for you to consider if you're looking for something. I've found a lot of service clubs, Legions, Lions, and Rotary clubs have really found a benefit from these types of events to bring more people out on a weekly basis. They can pick a night of the week, Tuesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, whenever. And say we're going to do the draw on that night. And it just draws in a lot of excitement, a lot of people to come out for that particular weekly draw. Okay?
You have to be present.
So the question is, do you have to be present? You can make it so that you're present, or you can, so if you're using the roll tickets, then you're only selling the roll tickets to the people who come out to that event. Therefore, you have to be present in order to purchase and then participate. If you're going to use a stub ticket raffle, the stub ticket, you can have people fill out their names and you can sell it all day, all week long, and then they're going to select the envelope. So on the ticket, I would put my name and the envelope that I want to choose. You can draw my name and say, oh, Rusty is the winner tonight. And he's on this ticket, he's picked envelope number 16. So we're going to open envelope number 16 on behalf of Rusty, and we'll let him know what the ticket was inside, or what card was inside. And then we got to make arrangements to get Rusty as 20% because that's automatic, gets that regardless. So it depends on the style of ticket that you're going to be selling as to whether or not you can require the attendance or need to have the attendance there or not. Okay, but this is again in our policy manual. It's a great opportunity, and there's been a lot of success. I mean, I like to take credit for it, but I was just responsible to roll it out here in Ontario. They've had a lot of huge success down in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI, running, and you can see they call it Chase the Ace down in Eastern Canada, but we call it Catch the Ace up here in Ontario. And then there's the electronic raffles. We talked a little bit about this earlier. These are where if you're going to be selling and distributing the tickets online, or if you're going to use some of these handheld devices with Bluetooth printers, you'll see these at a lot of the bigger sporting events. I know that in Ottawa, there's a bunch of teams for the Ottawa Senators. They use electronic raffles solutions. The Ottawa 67s, the Red Blacks, a lot of those bigger foundations. OSIG uses those. I know there's a bunch of hospital foundations who do electronic raffles as well, although they're more of like an online website where you go to their website and buy the raffle ticket through their website, and they'll send you an email with your raffle numbers. Those are for like the bigger houses and cars and trips. But these are this is an opportunity if you want to participate in electronic raffles, you absolutely can. There's nothing stopping you from participating in electronic raffles. One of the other things that we did, I think about a year ago, is we created what's called a collaborative framework for organizations to work together, smaller organizations to work together. So you could have 4 or 5 or 6 different municipalities within your community work together under one lottery license and then share the proceeds of that lottery license. So one charity has to step forward and do all the management conduct, but then there could be 4 other charities that are helping to sell the tickets and promote it so that you're not competing with each other, but rather working together collaboratively to try and raise more money for the charities that are involved. So some of these electronic raffles would be great for those kinds of situations where you've got 4 or 5 charities working together to do a bigger 50-50 or a bigger electronic Catch the Ace. Catch the Ace can be done on the electronics as well. There are electronic raffle suppliers that you can then enter into a contract with to use their raffle solutions online, to sell tickets online. And then when you start selling online, getting a license from the AGCO, it opens up the whole province of Ontario for people to purchase tickets for. So there's opportunity there as well. Okay. So amendments. If you get a raffle license and you want to amend the license, there are some requirements that you need to go through. Licensing authority can issue an amendment if it's in the public interest to do so. The licensee must discuss the request with the licensing authority and receive prior written approval before the draw date. So if you want to extend the draw date, or if you want to change any parameters of that raffle, you want to change the prize, you want to change the sales cost for the ticket prices, usually the biggest one is the extension. I want to extend the draw date because I'm going to lose money if I don't. If I have to do the draw this Saturday, I'm going to lose money. So I need another month to sell tickets. If you want to do that, one of the requirements here is to get licensee must contact all ticket purchasers, so everybody who's purchased a ticket, and get them to give you a signed and notarized disclaimer saying that they've agreed to the extension for the draw. Okay? So it's possible, but it makes it difficult. If you sold 1,000 tickets for your raffle, then you need to contact all those people. This is what we talk about in terms of contract law. You submitted your application to sell tickets for a certain amount of money for a certain prize to be drawn on a certain date. We went through the process and we issued you a license on those parameters. That's the raffle license. You created the rules of play. We didn't create them for you. You created them yourself. So we're going to hold you to that, and you have to run the raffle according to those parameters unless you get these signed and notarized disclaimers. Now, if you go through the process and you realize, I haven't sold any tickets to anybody yet, but I'm changing my mind in terms of some of these parameters of the license, then you don't need to get any signed disclaimers because you haven't sold any tickets. So we can then amend the license if you have them. Or if there's only 10 people that have bought a ticket, well, then it's easy enough to go to. But keeping in mind, those 10 people may come to the realization, well, if you have to do the draw this Saturday, I've got 3 tickets already, and there's only 10 tickets, I have a pretty good chance of winning that $5,000 television. So maybe I want you to do the draw this Saturday because I could use a new TV. So, but in many cases, it's not generally approved when you want to apply for these kinds of extensions because it's not fair to the general public. You know, put yourselves in the shoes of the people who bought the ticket. It's like, okay, well, you want more time to sell? That's just going to decrease my odds of winning. You agreed, I bought the ticket for the amount of money you asked me to, for the draw to be done on this date. If you want to change those parameters, you have to get everybody that's participating in that contract to agree to that change. Okay? So that would be it for the presentation. So what we'll do now is I will give people the opportunity to ask all the questions that they want to ask. I think we'll do the questions here in the venue first, and then we'll go to the questions to online. However, I ran out of oh,
Did you turn yours on?
okay. So I thought maybe they were giving me a hint. So what I'll do is, I mean, you guys have been very patient, and I really appreciate you guys listening to all of the stuff tonight. For those of you who don't have any questions and want to just, kind of head out and go home, by all means, feel free to do so. Now would be the time to do that. But I did promise earlier, I will stick around and answer everybody's questions, and both online and in person here. So without further ado, I will over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they can hear the questions online, so they don't say questions.
Okay. Do you want to just use this mic, or this is a little easier? Use that one, okay?
People answer.
Okay, so we'll get people to go up to the stand so that the people online can hear the question as well. That may deter people from asking questions. Okay.
I want to thank you, Rusty, for that presentation. It was very informative for, I'm sure, all of us. Thank you. I do have some, but there's one question. As you're going through it, and there's two licensing, I guess, authorities, you and municipality. Does the municipality have the option to opt out of offering licenses? And because you have your limits and such, so that's the question. Must the municipality offer license, or can they be, the applicant be redirected to the AGCO?
That's a great question. So in the event that a municipality chooses not to issue a license to a charity for whatever reason, and if they decide they don't want to issue licenses, period, that's the municipality's decision. The only time the AGCO will get involved is when it falls under our jurisdiction to issue that license. So if a charity goes to the municipality to get a $5,000 50/50 raffle license and gets denied, the charity cannot come to the AGCO and get a $5,000 50/50 raffle license, because we will not override the municipality's decision. So we'd send you back to the municipality to get a license if it was their authority to issue that license.
Or increase that amount to 6,000.
Or you could increase it up to 51,000, and then you can get the license from us, or you can do it electronically. So if it falls under our purview, it would come to us, but AGCO would not issue licenses on behalf of municipalities that choose not to.
But can we opt out completely?
If the municipality wanted to opt out completely, that would certainly be up to the decision of municipal council. Mayor and council could make that decision, but AGCO would respect and honor that decision, and we would not be stepping in to issue municipal licenses on their behalf. Next question.
Thank you. Regarding the break open tickets. If a charity chooses to sell break open tickets, are they committed to one location, or can that license go from the community hall to the arena next week to another location within the municipality?
So with a break open ticket license, it is issued to the charity at a location that they've entered into a contract with. So when you're selling the tickets at a convenience store, you enter into agreement or a contract. There is no limit to the number of break open ticket licenses the municipality can issue to the charity. So if you have multiple locations that you would like to sell break open tickets in, you can apply for multiple break open ticket licenses and sell them in multiple locations.
It can't come from the same box.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a number of questions. Do you want me to do one at a time or all of them?
Oh, let's do one at a time.
This has to do with reporting.
Okay.
Okay, because, and I'm not criticizing by any means, but since Leanne has come into our township, there's been quite a few changes made. And I'm wondering, like, my organization has a blanket license, a lot of break open ticket license, and specialty raffles.
Okay,
Okay, now when I report, I have to send her bank statements, which I don't have a problem. But these raffles are all ran in the same year,
okay,
and I have to send her 3 copies of the bank statements. Like, I don't mind giving her copies, but I feel that because she's getting the year's copy, when I give her back the Nevada license, I really don't think I should have to give her 6 months for blanket, 6 months for blanket, and 3 months for specialty license, or raffle, sorry,
so all of your proceeds go through one lottery trust account?
yes.
And depending on the time frame as to when you're submitting the reports, like the money going in and out of the account is gonna be different based on the different types of licenses that you're issuing, that you're running. So it's important for us to see the money going in for the specialty raffles and the use of the proceeds for the specialty raffles under that report. And then it's different for the break open tickets, because that's gonna be different uses of proceeds that you're gonna be raising for that, different money going in, different money coming out for the use of those proceeds. That's why it's important to see the bank account for those. And for me, I would even ask you to highlight the details of the bank account
I do.
to show these are the, because it just makes it easier for us to be able to then go through it and verify the deposit slips and the use of the proceeds is all done for that particular license. The money was used for the things that were on the break open ticket license, because what you're using it for on the application for break opens might be different than for raffles, for the blanket raffle, and might be different than the specialty raffles. You got maybe different programs that you're using all these different proceeds for. The challenge for Leanne is she's got to use her time to make sure that the money for the raffles is being used for the things that she approved in the raffle application, break open tickets being used for what she approved in that application, and so forth. So that's where it makes it simpler to get those deposit slips and the statements individualized for the different reports that you have to submit.
See, whenever I do my, bank statements, I will write beside the withdrawal, blanket, Canadian Cancer, Nevada, whatever, specialty license raffle. Like, I show her on each statement, but now that's done on every statement. Like, I do that on every statement, but then I copy it and I give it to her for the blanket, I give it to her for the Nevada and the specialty license. And the way it worked this year, they all ended in June, so
Right.
I was giving her 12 copies and 6 copies and
Right.
4 copies, all at the same time.
Right, so in this case, one thing I can think of to streamline that for you is to write all those things on the one statement, then copy that statement 2 additional times, so that when you submit it with the report, it shows all the detail, and then Leanne can pull out the information for the specific type of license that she's going over and reviewing for the reporting. So it's not extra work for you to have to do it 3 different times. You do it 1 time and then copy it 2 times to show this is for this
I'm
license.
still giving her 3 copies.
And if that's what she's asking for, then that's what she needs to do her job. So that's what's gonna be needed.
Well, it's just that the cost is getting ridiculous.
Okay, and I can assure you the costs for the photocopying and so forth are all eligible expenses under the license, because they're directly connected to running the lotteries. So if there's photocopying bills, you can then put those bills through the lottery, so it's not coming out of your organization's general account.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Great presentation. Something I got out of this, if you're a service club, it's very easy to get a lottery license to generate revenue for the community. I'm part of an agricultural society, so I know we can apply for a fairs and expedition license, but we can only generate revenue during that time period. So if our fair runs from Friday to Sunday, that's the only time that license is legitimate. We have some large capital expenses that we need to cover. Okay, we have some grandstand work, things like that to do. You know, we're looking at, we need to try to generate, let's say $100,000 in revenue. what options are open to us to try to generate revenue with the AGCO?
Okay, so when we look at a fair and exhibition license, which would be separate from when you would get from the municipality, you would get that from the AGCO. If you get a fair and exhibition license, the money would then be used to support the fair and exhibition timeframe. If there's extra money from that fair and exhibition license framework that you would use for enhancements for future fairs, then that's what you can then allocate and dedicate those monies in your lottery trust account to pay for those types of features moving forward. If you're raising it as an agricultural society for outside of the fair and exhibition timeframe, then we need to connect it to charitable programs that your organization is running and managing, and how those enhancements to the land or enhancements to your facility would be furthering those charitable programs. We just need to connect it to the charitable programs and services somehow in order to be able to use lottery proceeds to use for those enhancements. Because if there's no programs or charitable initiatives attached to it, then it's not charitable dollars that can be supporting those enhancements to the property.
Right, so I guess that's what I'm saying, because it's really like, I mean, we have the Cheshire Ag Society, okay? And like I said, we have, let's say, $100,000 in work that we need to do on our grandstands.
Yeah.
Those grandstands we use during the fair, and we're trying to rent them out and do other things with them.
Yeah.
It's really hard, you can't really make that line, or I haven't figured out a way to make that line connect. So I feel that we're kind of handicapped in ways that we can generate revenue. And that's why I'm hoping that maybe you guys had a suggestion on other things we could do, or other ways that we can generate revenue, not during the fair, or, but still use it towards capital expenses for the agricultural society and upkeep of the buildings.
Yeah, so there's a number of initiatives and things that you could look to do that are not lottery licensed, because the challenge that you'll have for lottery proceeds is connecting into that charitable mandate. So if you were to rent out parts of the facility for other events, for other organizations to come in and use your facilities for whatever it is, then those revenues would go into your general account, and you could do whatever you like with those proceeds to use for those types of initiatives to enhance your property. There's other ways like silent auctions or other events of those natures to try and raise funds that would not be considered lottery proceeds. The other option is if you are connecting the facilities or the property in some way to some charitable programs, bringing in 4-H clubs or bringing in maybe Boy Scouts, Girl Guides to use the land for camping events and those kinds of things, that would be an opportunity to use lottery proceeds to help offset those enhancements to your property so that other charities can use your facilities. Okay?
That's very helpful, thank you.
I was gonna say, is it getting warm in here or is it just me?
I also have a list of questions.
Okay.
Go back in line after. What happens if we have a group that has both adults and youth that form members of the association? What if they want to do a lottery? Because it then becomes like amateur sports.
Yeah. It's a great question. So what happens is for the eligibility of the organization, the municipality or the licensing authority has the authority to ask for the age of the members of the organization. So we can say, give us your rosters or give us all your members and their birth dates. And we find that 60%, let's just for argument's sake, say 60% of the members are under the age of 18. Therefore, 60% of the members make your organization eligible for lottery proceeds. So when you start paying for ice fees, then ice fees, if it's hockey, ice fees would be 60% of the ice fees can be covered because that's the percentage that makes your organization eligible. You couldn't do 100% because then 40% of that are not eligible for proceeds are benefiting from lottery licensing. So we would then attribute the proceed percentage to the percentage of members that are under the age of 18 for the eligibility criteria.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
So, I was told we're not allowed to ask. Sorry, I was told we're not allowed to ask for.
Okay, I'm not sure who told you that, but we certainly have the authority. This is for eligibility. So if an organization, and I've had it happen to myself, where an organization has not wanted to provide information that I needed to determine eligibility, that's fine, I'm not gonna fight with your organization. I just won't issue a lottery license, because I cannot determine eligibility. So until I get the eligibility, all of the details I'm asking for, which I have every right to ask for those informations, then if they don't wanna provide it, that's okay, I'm not gonna force them to, I just wouldn't issue a lottery license. And if they provided it, then it comes our record, which is information I know can be FOI, but there is a process to go through for FOI, where legal departments and solicitors would then strike out any information that's not shareable under FOI parameters.
Okay. I'm back and
Okay.
this is more reporting,
Okay,
and this is, apparently not Leanne's fault, but your company.
okay. It is getting hot in here now.
I just don't want Leanne mad at me.
I don't want the mad at me either.
I don't care about that. Okay, I am with the Legion in Finch, and we run, I have a blanket license, I've had it for years. And we run 50/50, and the draw is that night. And before, we just paid out the 50/50, if it was $10 or $100, we just paid it to the winner. Now, according to you people, I have to write a check. And we cash the check. The check comes from our lottery account.
Okay.
And it's cashed out of the general.
Okay.
Again, a waste of paper. Now, can you change that and let us go back to, I'm not talking about a special raffle. I'm talking about a 50/50 that's in-house with the winners present at the time of the draw. So I just walk over and say, here's your $100 and forget the check stubs. Because when I do the report, and I do it too, I give to the township the name of the person, the date of the draw, and the amount that was made, and I show the profit and the amount I pay out and the person's name, and it's signed by whoever did the draw. And the people back there talking would be very nice if you would please be quiet.
Okay, so in the terms and conditions, it says that all prizes need to be paid from the lottery trust account. So when I stand here and tell you the framework and the details of what has to be done, that's what has to be done. I have an obligation and a responsibility to tell you what the terms and conditions state. And there's reasons and some rationale for it. It may not make sense when the prizes are $100 or $50 or whatever, because it makes more sense to just give them the cash and be done with it. But I've had situations where, and I'm not wanting to get into validating what threshold would be an acceptable amount to pay in cash. That's why we say all prizes need to be awarded by check. But when I had a situation where I was running bingo halls and we awarded cash to the prize winners of the various prizes. So the person won the jackpot, won $1,000 in cash. On their way out to their car, they got mugged. And I know you're gonna laugh, because who's gonna mug somebody for $100? I get that. That's why I'm not saying there's a threshold for it. What I'm saying is that I'm not wanting to put anybody at risk for being jumped because of the cash that they have in their pocket based on what a charity has given them. At the end of the day, if you issue the check to the person, the check is then gonna come out of your account. If that person signs it over and you give them cash afterwards, that's that person's decision to do that because the check's been issued. I know it's a little bit of extra additional paperwork, not a lot of extra paperwork, but it's a little bit. But at the end of the day, it complies with the framework, meaning that the check was written for the prize. And what that person did after that, they could sign it over to me if they want to. And I can give them $100 in cash, or I can give them whatever I want, but whatever arrangement we've made to sign off on that check. That's what the framework says. So I don't have the authority to say, yes, you can start paying out cash and giving receipts and so forth, because the framework says it's gotta be awarded in the check. Because for you, $100 may be what you are awarding in a 50/50, but in a neighboring municipality, a charity is awarding $1,000 or $1,500 in cash. and that person then could be susceptible to being mugged. And then they're gonna say, well, Rusty, when you were in Moose Creek, you said we could do cash, and now I put the charity and the members of the public at risk because I'm trying to be flexible to address concerns from one charity. So unfortunately, I can't say, yes, you can do it by cash. It has to be paid by check.
Well, unfortunately,
Unfortunately.
I really think that you need to get inspectors out and go around this country, because I can almost guarantee you that 80% of the people are paying cash.
I'm not disputing that.
Well, you can't.
And I can tell you, on my way up here from Toronto, there was a lot of people who went flying by me on the highway. They know what the speed limit is, but they wanna break the law. I can't stop them. So at the end of the day, I can only try and help the people who want to comply with the rules. Next question.
So I had somebody send me in a question that couldn't be on Zoom.
Okay,
So for a minor sport organization, say hockey, soccer, whatever. If you register your child for that sport and it's $500, say.
Yep.
A lot of them have fundraising and they have lottery tickets.
Yep.
So they say, okay, well now you have to take these tickets and you have to sell them, or if you don't sell them, you have to buy them. So I guess the question is like, can they do that? And the other question is, if they don't sell them all, if they are now selling those tickets, they cannot put their name on the ticket, correct?
correct. So in this case, and this really falls on to licensing authorities to make sure that they understand the rules of how raffles are being done. We should not be licensing those types of raffles when there's forced participation in a lottery scheme. Okay, volunteerism is supposed to be exactly that. People are supposed to choose to volunteer. And the argument that I make to people is that if that situation is there and I want to sell $500 worth of raffle tickets and let my kid play for free, why is that not acceptable? Why am I only forced to sell $100 worth of tickets when I can go out and be a go-getter and sell $500 worth of tickets and let my kid play for free? Because I'll be motivated if I don't have to pay any money out of my pocket. But the charity cannot put those limitations on. It's no different than the charity putting limitations on other volunteer participation in terms of trying to raise lottery proceeds. It's like going to you're gonna go to the hospital and you're injured and you go through the emergency room, but you're forced to buy $20 worth of break-open tickets from the Victoria Order of Nurses before you're able to see the doctor. Then would there be a public outcry? So you can't force volunteerism on the people. So certainly, and I understand why some organizations want to encourage their members to participate and sell raffle tickets, but that should be voluntary. It's not required. And where it becomes a real challenge is if there is, because if you go to the heart of eligibility for the organization, because if for some reason you're forcing me to participate in a lottery scheme, that could be against people's religion. So there could be some restrictions on the fact that that is now you have to sell these tickets. Because I'm either selling them to myself or I'm having to sell them to the general public. But to participate in gambling may be against my religion. So that's one concern. The other concern is that there may be people involved in the organization that shouldn't be participating in those lotteries, like municipal licensing officers, like myself. I am not permitted by policy to participate in any lottery scheme. I can't buy raffle tickets, I can't buy 649, I'm not allowed to go to the casinos, I'm not allowed to participate in any way, shape, or form, because the last thing that the registrar wants is to have to answer to the general public why Rusty's face is on the front of the newspaper saying he won $40 million for the Lotto Max. People would be saying, well, it's fixed because it's an AGCO employee, he must have known what the numbers were. So why we cannot participate in these because it's for the honesty and integrity for the general public. So at the same time, if Leanne's got kids in that hockey or baseball or basketball, if I don't sell them, I want to put my name on it because I had to pay for it. It's not really fair that I'm having to buy these tickets. So in many cases, municipalities should not be issuing raffle licenses for those types of draws if they're attached to registration fees. Okay. Next question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question with regards to trust accounts. I heard
Okay.
there were new laws that were put into place that require, for trust accounts, that you have to get like letters from a lawyer and such in order, and that the trust account has to have like the name of the organization in trust at the top of the check.
Okay,
There's a lot of smaller groups that can't afford that type of stuff, so I'm just curious.
okay, so there's one thing that needs to be cleared up, is that the lottery proceeds need to go into a lottery trust account. A lot of organizations don't necessarily set up a lottery trust account initially, because they don't know, they don't understand. In some cases, they don't do a lot of raffles or a lot of lotteries. Excuse me, so when they set up their account at the bank, they set it up as a general business account. But it's supposed to be a lottery trust account. The reason it has to be a lottery trust account is that the money, as I said earlier in the presentation, is not your organization's money, the public's money. So as a result of that, we have to protect that money. And I've had situations where a charitable organization has gone bankrupt. And so when the organization goes bankrupt, creditors come in and seize all of the assets of the organization. If the money is not in a lottery trust account, those assets get seized by the creditors. And then the lottery proceeds are being used to pay the debt of the organization, which is not a direct benefit to the residents of Ontario. That's why it has to go into a lottery trust account, because then the money is protected. It cannot be seized by creditors, even if the organization goes bankrupt. So in many cases, and a lot of the challenge for charities is when they go to the bank, they say, I need to set up an in-trust account or a lottery trust account, and the bank staff feel that it is an in-trust account. If they're asking for a beneficiary, then that's the wrong kind of trust account. You can set up an in-trust account for a member of your family. When they turn a certain age, they get this benefit, this money. That's an in-trust account. But a lottery trust account is no different than a real estate trust account or a lawyer's trust account. When you go to buy a house, you put down a deposit. That's protected if that real estate agent or that lawyer goes bankrupt. Your money is protected because it's in a trust account. So that's why it has to be in a lottery trust account. So if you're asking for a lottery trust account at your bank and they don't know what you're talking about, ask to speak to the manager or the supervisor, because they'll know hopefully they'll know what you're talking about. Most of the banks that I've dealt with, not all of the banks I've dealt with, have lottery trust account accessibility or availability for charities. They just need to know what type of account they're trying to set up.
Me again.
Okay, I'm gonna go for three here.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you will, because you're not changing anything. Okay, whenever we apply for a blanket license, we have to record every 50-50 that we're gonna draw in those 6 months of the blanket license. What happens if out of the blue, we decide to do something that's not on that application?
Okay. What happens?
Yeah, what?
You can submit an easy amendment request to Leanne to say, I would like to add on this 50-50 into our blanket raffle license.
Yeah, but why are you making us do this when we're recording them anyway?
So when we issue you a license, and again, part of the challenge is if it's a $5,000 blanket raffle license, and if you're not monitoring and tracking it, and you sell more than the $5,000 in the first 3 months because nobody's monitoring and tracking it, all of a sudden you paid $6,000 of prizes because you just had a really good couple months. Well, technically you've broken the law because the license was for $5,000 because you didn't do the administration on it. You're now going to be in trouble, not serious trouble, but you're not monitoring. So that's why when you give us a license for a blanket raffle license, we just ask you to give us the dates that you want to do something.
Okay.
But with the flexibility that if you want to add something into it, that's fine. The blanket raffle license is there. Just send me an email saying, I'd like to add on this event on this date. Here's the tickets, here's the rules of play for the raffle. And then I can say, you're good to go then. You're approved for that.
Send it to you or to her?
I'm not issuing you the license, so send it to Leanne.
I just wanna make that.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, you send it to the licensing authority.
And it's a two-part question. this
Okay.
Particular one. Whenever we're applying for license, we have to show in the period of the license who we're donating to.
Yes,
So in order, again, if somebody sends me a request and wants money for something, I would have to go to her and get an amendment, right? Is this what would happen?
So if you are donating to an organization for service clubs, we can look at an organization's approved list. So if you've got 10 different charities that have been pre-approved, but you have an 11th charity that you want to donate to, but we don't know who they are, then yes, you have to submit that amendment request to add them to your list.
See, before this really strict person came to the township. And she knows I'm only picking, we would just write charitable organizations on our license.
Okay.
And it just filled in for all the charities that were organizations, like
Okay.
cancer and stuff. And then when we did our reporting,
Mhm.
we just reported who we donated to.
Yeah.
Which made it easy.
And I can certainly understand that, and if there's ways for us to make it easier, I'm more than happy to explore those possibilities. At the end of the day, as I explained earlier in my presentation, I've had situations where charities have done what they feel is good work, good intentions, lots of good ideas to do things, but they didn't contact me to ask if they could donate to the Humboldt Broncos Foundation, because if they had, I would have said, no, you can't. So don't promote it. Don't advertise it, don't look bad in the public side, because you can't do it prior to you just doing it. Similarly here, if you wanna do something, I'm not trying to, and I can tell you on Leanne's behalf, and on this municipal council's behalf, and the mayor's standing right behind me. They're not wanting to stand in your way, okay, they're not wanting to get in your way, but we have to also understand that there are responsibilities that we have to be able to answer to, where the money went, and what it was used for, that it was used for charitable programs and services. Because sometimes charities have donated money to other organizations that were not eligible, and then how do I get that money back after they've given it to somebody? It becomes next to impossible, and I would have told you you couldn't donate to that organization had you asked me first. But you didn't ask me first, so therefore I couldn't help you until after the fact. So do we just sweep it under the rug and say, well, therefore, those proceeds are going to a non-charitable event? I mean, the charities work hard for the money. I'm certainly preaching the converted here, where you guys work really hard to make that money. I'm not wanting to stand in your way to use it. I just need to make sure that I can justify, or Leanne can justify, it being used for what it's supposed to be used for. Because if it gets into a public image where the newspapers in the area get a hold of it that it's not being used properly, they could drag the organization through the mud and say, this organization's using the money inappropriately for things that aren't supposed to be used for, and there goes all of your good work and goodwill in the community because the newspaper wants to sell papers.
But the worst of this is, and this is not only my feelings, but it's a lot of other people that I've talked to. Because we're volunteers, we're having to do more and more and more work. And the bottom line is, and don't think I'm disrespecting this because I'm not. You guys are getting paid, we're not. And sometimes this bookwork takes hours.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And whenever we have to do all this paperwork and stuff and copy everything, like, we're cutting back on what we can give out and what we can take to help our organizations in the long run. And it's really not fair. It'll be a tricky statement, but it's really not fair for the people who do the work because they know what a volunteer means, and the people who put their hands in the cash and keep it for themselves. And that's the sad part. The honest people are being punished.
Well, I'm not sure if I would consider them being punished.
I would.
And that's fair, that's fine, you certainly have that'll be your opinion. At the end of the day, there is accountability that's required when you're running lotteries. There's accountability. If you are wanting to raise money through lottery licensing, these are the things that you have to do. You have to be accountable for where the money is going, what the money is being spent on, because there's parameters and rules around where the money needs to go for. I would never step in and say what you can spend your general monies on. You guys raise your general monies through rental, through other ways of raising the general funds. That you can spend on whatever you'd like to spend it on. We don't have any authority to tell you what to spend your general monies on. We do have the authority and the responsibility to make sure that lottery proceeds under the licenses we issue are being used for the appropriate things, because we have to answer for them if they're not. So, I mean, in some cases, to try and create that flexibility that many volunteers are looking for, and I can appreciate the volunteerism. That's why I'm always looking for, and I'm happy to discuss ways of cutting the red tape, ways of getting around some of these things to say, is it legal? But at the end of the day, some of the things that you're asking licensing authorities to do is to not be held accountable for the things that we're responsible for. And if we have to answer to them, whether it be to municipal council or to the newspaper, when the news outlets are calling us saying, where did this money go from this raffle or this bingo or this break open ticket? If we don't know, or we can't with confidence say where it went, we're gonna look bad as licensing authorities. So we ask for these things and we want to do these things to help defend the integrity and the work that the charities and the volunteers are doing, because sometimes it'll happen where we have to defend the process. They're not gonna come to the charity and scream because you guys will have the answer. They'll come to us because we issued the license. So what oversight did we as government have over what the charity spent the money on? And that's where we have to come up with the answers. Otherwise, it won't just be the charity being dragged through the mud, it'll be the licensing authority, whether it's the municipality or the province, being dragged through the mud.
Okay, I know I'm standing here picking all these things that I don't like doing, but just for information, I've been involved in the Nevada license in our township for over 40 years. And I always did, even if I didn't want to, I always did what the licensed person asked of me to do. And I think Leanne will say that I'm filling out everything she wants.
Yeah, and again, I'm to be fully transparent, I'm happy to discuss and go through. We work with, you're with the Legion, right? I work with Provincial Command all the time to try and work on figuring out how to streamline processes. I mean, I've got Pam Sweeney, she calls me probably once every other week, asking for guidance and stuff about this and, you know, about various things, about Liquor License Act and all those things. I'm more than happy to try and make things easier for the charities and volunteers, because they know this is not a job for you. This is not a full-time job. You don't get paid for it. You do it because you want to see betterment in your community. If there's things that we can do to make it streamlined, to make it easier for you to do what you need to do, but still have the responsibility and the oversight that we need, then I'm happy to do it. Let's talk about what those options are, and we can discuss how to make it better. Okay?
Just have a two-part question. So the first one, in regards to municipal staff that are dealing with implementing all your codes and guidelines.
Yeah.
Is there any support? So being called a bad lady, or I know there's a lot of people that they've been doing it for so long that to try to change, it's like, why are we changing? And it brings a lot of frustration, and sometimes it aggravates to the point where staff does not deserve to. So is there support from the AGCO to help specific or this particular staff in regards to, without getting the criminal code in the day, but just some kind of to tell the person that, listen, it's not just Leanne here that's implementing, so maybe I can answer on that part.
So absolutely, there's always support for licensing authorities, municipalities. They have the opportunity to contact us. You know, Leanne and I have had many conversations since she's taken on the role. I've talked to municipalities across Ontario all the time when they're calling for asking for guidance, especially over the last probably 6 years. There's been quite a bit of turnover within the licensing departments and the clerk's departments of municipalities. And that's just new people. And then to take over and take on the responsibility of doing the lottery licensing in a municipality becomes daunting when they look at that policy manual and see 287 pages. What am I supposed to do with that? How am I supposed to understand all that? So we do all these training sessions and we have all these opportunities to come out and do this training. But outside of the training, there's nothing stopping licensing authorities to contact us and say, can you help me with this situation? I've got an eligibility I need to do, or I've got a situation that I need some assistance on. What can I, what would you do in this situation? On top of that, there's also great opportunities to network with other municipalities in the area. And we'll talk about that tomorrow with the other municipal licensing officers to talk about, what's going on in their community and what they will feel going on. But at the end of the day, one of the things that charity members and volunteers need to realize is we're just here to do a job. Like, we're not here to make things more difficult for you. We're here to do our job. We have a responsibility to do the things that we have to do. It's our job. And I mean, some of the things we can't do, if we don't do them, then we're not doing our job and then we could be terminated. And I know that's not what you're asking for us to do, is to be terminated, because we wanna give you guys some extra leeway. At the end of the day, we're just wanting to make sure that we can do and answer the questions that we're gonna get. So if there's things that we can do to make it easier for you to provide that information to us, then we're happy to do that. But at no time should there ever be, both to the volunteers or from the volunteers or charity members or from the general public, any kind of criticism over people individually in terms of the work that they're supposed to be doing. Because that's just not acceptable. You know, we're not gonna take that to charities, and it shouldn't be to the licensing officers either.
No, and just quickly, the municipalities are, so a decade on council, I've seen officers, so we issue a license, it doesn't get followed to a T. Stuff happens where it's not done right. Have you ever seen where somebody goes legal, gets sued, and next thing you know, municipalities are unlimited funds, we can always raise taxes, and we often see where the municipality gets brought in because we issued the license. Is that something that you've seen in your?
No, I haven't seen those kinds of scenarios where municipalities have been sued or individuals have been sued. You know, if, in many cases, what we're trying to do and what licensing authorities will try to do is to get people into compliance. You know, that's why I started off tonight with saying, if you find out something I'm gonna discuss or say, you're doing wrong, or you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, don't panic. We can work with you to get you into compliance. I wanted this to be an educational opportunity for people to say, okay, here's what you need to understand what our responsibilities are. So if you know what we need as licensing authorities, then you can try and help us get that. And I'm happy to say yes to everything that you want to do, as long as I can defend it, that it's directly benefiting the residents of Ontario, and that it's for a support of a charitable program. Those are the things that we need as licensing authorities. So if you can give that information to us, we can say yes. And that makes it so much simpler. But licensing authorities and municipalities, I haven't seen them get sued because they've issued a license incorrectly. There's been times where I've had some municipalities issuing licenses to ineligible organizations, and we've worked with them to wind down the license, or we've removed the license and said this is why, because you're not eligible, depending on the risk in the big picture. So there's not a one size fits all solution to those, but we certainly would work with any organization to get into compliance, however that may be.
Not a question, but a comment. There's other municipalities in here, and one thing, if we can listen to the comments or the presentation that was made tonight, often elected official gets the question, or people say, you know what, I'm allowed to do this in North Dundas, but yet we can't do it. So that's something I think working together would be a big.
Having consistency would be great, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll get two more questions here, and then we'll go on online.
Feel like that was a great segue. I'm actually deputy clerk for the Township of South Glengarry, so I'm actually Leanne's counterpart, so I'm actually the one issuing the licenses. So I'm looking at a group over there that I've sadly had to deny licenses to. And part of the reason that we're here is to learn, to try and work with you guys.
Yeah.
It's not that we want to be mean, it's not that we like reviewing all the paperwork. It's difficult for us too. So my last question that I have on my list, if you have a student group in a school that wants to sell a lottery license or lottery tickets to other students in the school, is that allowed? Or like a student group that wants to do a bingo in the school to raise money for their group selling bingo tickets to other students?
Is the school a university or college? Then no, it couldn't, because you cannot participate in a lottery scheme if you're under the age of 18. You have to be 18 years of age or older to buy a lottery ticket.
Okay.
Whether it's a raffle, bingo, or break-open ticket, so.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, the school could still get a license, as long as the school is gonna run it properly, but that still doesn't give them the opportunity to sell to minors. Okay, they could do a raffle, and lots of schools have done it. And in those cases, I would never license the individual student group. I would license the school itself. If the school itself is not willing to step forward to have that oversight, then they wouldn't get a license. Okay.
All right, concerning the cost of the license.
Yep.
In the past, our township there was like a fixed fee.
Mhm.
Whether it was the proper way back then or not, I'm not sure, but I was
Yep.
just following what they were asking. Now it's like the cost is like 3% of
Prizes.
prizes.
Yep.
Now my question is, where does that money go? That 3% that is taken, where does it go?
Okay,
And finding this out now with, like, for our
break open tickets.
our regular tickets, we are finding that our license is now costing us over $1,000, which if that's what it is, that's
Yep.
what it is now.
Yep.
But it's just, this is something new to us, so as volunteers and as fundraising, we are adjusting our fee.
Okay,
But, and my second part of the question, so where does that 3% go?
yes,
And my second part is that, is there any cost for the amendments? So let's say I have like a series of drawing that same license and I'd like to change the date. Is there a cost to changing that date?
okay. Those are two really good questions. So the first answer to the question of where does the money go? The money goes into the municipal coffers, okay? So it's important to note, and I'll just highlight this because even with some of the municipal council here, more than probably 95% of municipalities that issue lottery licenses lose money on the licensing that they issue. Lottery licensing is not a revenue generation source of revenue for municipalities. It is a loss leader. When municipalities have done return on investment analysis of lottery licensing for the particular hours of staff that have to be dedicated to issuing and overseeing and monitoring and tracking and all that stuff, most municipalities will see that issuing lottery licenses loses money from a municipal standpoint. At the end of the day, though, when they realize if I don't issue those licenses, charities cannot generate the revenue and raise the money for the programs in the community that are necessary and essential. And therefore, if I don't issue the lottery licenses, I'm gonna have organizations coming to us looking for municipal dollars to help offset some of their operating costs of these organizations that are needed and necessary. So it's better for me to issue the lottery licenses, let them raise the money and use it for those programs as a service. Okay, so that's where most municipalities, if they look at it from a just purely financial perspective, most municipalities would not want to issue lottery licenses. Okay. The second question. Sorry, you're just gonna have to remind me what the second question was?
Is there a cost?
Cost for amendments. Thank you. Yes, cost for amendments. Should be no cost for an amendment that gets added to your license unless the amendment is increasing the prizes. So the license fee that's charged is up to 3% of the prizes. So if you're just amending your license to extend it for a break open ticket license, for example, if you apply for a break open ticket license for 10 deals, you're gonna pay the license fee on those 10 deals for a year. If you apply for an amendment because you haven't sold all 10 deals in that year, you want another year on top of it, there should be no fee associated to that amendment to extend it for another year because you've already paid the license fee on those 10 deals of break open tickets.
Looking for like 50 draws, you have a series of draws in one license, but you want to change a date. Is there a fee for that?
There shouldn't be any fee unless you're changing the prize board. Okay? I'm gonna just go to a
It'll
couple.
only take 2 seconds. All you have to do is say yes or no. You don't have to go in.
I'm gonna hold it at 2 seconds because I want to get to the questions online.
I want to know if we can donate food banks, and I want to know if we can donate to a fire victim if there's children involved and they lose their home.
I have to look at the organization's eligibility for the food bank, but more times than not, most food banks I know of would be eligible to receive lottery proceeds, so the answer to that would be yes. The other answer would be quite possibly. I need to understand the circumstances of the donation and what they're gonna be using that for. I understand that, but I can't just say a blanket, yes, you can. I need to understand the circumstances, so in those cases, by all means, we'll do everything we can to help any organization wanting to help out and support a family in need. So we just need to get the details of what that need is or what that program would be.
Okay, well, thank you very much for answering all my questions, and you're a very long-winded man.
Thank you. So we'll do a couple questions online and then I'll come back to you.
First one is from Vivian. Can a grandparent purchase a raffle ticket under their name and their minor grandchildren?
Okay, so purchasing a ticket Could a grandparent purchase a ticket for their grandchild in their name? The answer in that is that participation in the lottery scheme must be somebody who's 18 years of age or older. So if a grandparent is going to purchase a ticket for a raffle, I would suggest they do not put their grandchild's name on the ticket that's going into the draw. Usually when those tickets are being done, there's a stub ticket, so you're gonna have a tear off portion. And if I've got 3 grandkids and I wanna have 1 ticket for each grandchild, I'll put my name on the 3 tickets that are gonna go into the draw, and I can put my grandchild's name on the stub that I keep to say, this ticket is for this grandchild, this one's for that one, and this one's for that one. So that when they award the prize, if they call my name, I can then go to my tickets and refer to who that ticket should be awarded to, or who's gonna be given that prize. If the grandparent puts the grandchild's name on the ticket, the charity cannot award that prize until the person turns 18. So the charity will have to hold that money in trust, if it's a cash prize, until such time as that person turns, because you as a charity couldn't award it. How do you award it to a 12-year-old kid? Pardon me? You can't, because the ticket has to go, the ticket was in the person's name. You gotta award the check, you gotta write the check for the amount of money to the person who matches the ticket that you pulled. So if I'm putting the kid's name on there, then a 12-year-old kid just won a prize from the lottery. So I gotta assume the ticket was purchased legally by a guardian, but at the end of the day, the best thing to do would be for the grandparent to put their name on the ticket, and then what they do with the money after they get the prize is up to them. They can do whatever they want. So just don't put a minor's name on the ticket, because that makes the charity really challenged to award that prize.
How long must sold raffle tickets be kept after the draw date?
Sold raffle tickets, I think we addressed this in the terms and conditions, but the sold tickets, and all of the tickets can be destroyed, I believe, 30 days after the draw date. They have to keep the winning details of the winning prize, but they can get rid of all of the sold tickets. I think it's 30 days after. I think it's what the terms and conditions state, 30 days after. They do not have to keep them for any real length of time.
If a volunteer group wants to give away door prizes or do some fundraising, in other words, keep the money, is this a lottery or an AGCO situation?
So if they want to do a door prize, which is charging a fee to get into an event, and they want to do a door prize, they'll need to get a license if they want to do it legally. And then the proceeds become a lottery proceeds, and they use for charitable programs and services. If they want to do it illegally, that's a different presentation.
Is it a rumor that you can sell tickets for 99 cents with no license?
Yes.
No,
This is-
there is, and that's an urban myth. I've never heard of that. The criminal code does not differentiate the cost of the tickets and not having to get a license. So if there's consideration or fee for a chance to win a prize, then it's a lottery license, or then it's a lottery scheme and requires a lottery license to do it legally.
I have a few more questions.
Okay. So we'll go back here to the room.
Yeah, just wanted to actually, goes back to her question about the expenses, the fee.
Yeah.
3%. So say like with our organization, we say we're at 1,000.
Yeah.
Now, what I understand is we have to pay 3% of, like, say we make 5,000. We have to pay the 3% of that.
Yeah. So when we gave you a license, when you applied for a license, you said, here's how many tickets I can sell. I'm gonna get this many tickets at $5 a piece. So $5,000 in gross sales, therefore my license is for $2,500. My prize is $2,500. A license fee is gonna be on that $2,500. Where I'm thinking you're going is what happens if I only sell $1,000 worth of tickets and I only pay $500, but I have a license for $2,500.
Yes.
Is that where you're going?
That's where I'm going. Is there a rebate? Did we get?
No. That's up to the municipality to decide whether or not you get a refund for that. At the end of the day, the license you were given covered a $2,500 prize pool. Certainly is not the municipality's responsibility or fault that you didn't sell all your tickets, right? And no, it's not your fault either. I'm sure you did everything you could to try and sell out those tickets. At the end of the day, though, when you look at the cost differences, I mean, 3% of $2,500 is not much different than 3% of $500 in terms in the big picture of things. You're probably losing more money on the printing of the tickets than you are on the difference of the license fee. So any refund for a license fee is at the discretion of the municipality. So they could certainly decide to do that if they'd like, that's up to them, but there's no responsibility for them to issue a refund for the prize that you didn't give away in that license.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Quick question.
Sure.
You said there was 3 criterias, a fee or a consideration,
Yes,
chance and price.
that's right.
Okay, I'm holding a dance, I charge people $20 to get in.
Mhm.
Okay, so far I'm legal. I don't need a permit.
I don't know, it sounds like you're leading me down a path.
No, but so far. I offer the lunch, so I offer a prize.
Okay.
But then the issue just came up about door prizes.
Right.
At that point, if you give door prizes, you would need a license.
So when we look at a door prize, typically speaking, a door prize would be, you bought a ticket, $20 to get in your event. And when you you come in, you drop your ticket, it's got a number on it. I'm dropping it in a container at the front door.
Yeah.
And then during the course of the night, we're gonna do a draw for a bottle of Jack Daniels or a bottle of vodka or whatever, TV or microwave, whatever it is. So now I've got consideration or a fee, so I got the consideration, the $20, for a chance, because I'm randomly gonna pull a ticket out for a prize. That's a lottery scheme.
So the only way around it would be to do a silent auction during the evening.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable talking about ways around the law.
If you don't give door prizes, then you don't need the 3 things.
Right, so as long as you're, exactly, so I mean, the consideration or fee for a chance to win a prize, if you do a silent auction to those people that are at that event, the silent auction would not need, a traditional silent auction.
Yeah.
Would not need a lottery license, and I say traditional silent auction because I had one organization say, okay, well, I wanna do a silent auction, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get people to put in blind bids. So I've got 5 prizes on a table, and you can put in a blind bid, so you can put in whatever number you're willing to pay for that prize into the draw. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to now just pull 1 ticket out of that, and that person is the winner of that prize, and they have to pay what's on that ticket for that prize. That is not a traditional silent auction. Now you've got consideration or fee for a chance to win a prize. So would require a lottery license for that type of a silent auction. That's why I try and clarify, for a traditional silent auction, where I can just outbid the person who's got the last bid there, there's no requirement for a lottery license because there's no chance. Okay.
2 questions.
Okay.
Earlier you said if it's, under the municipality or owned by the municipality, you can't get a license. So as a rec center, and we wanna, let's say we do the parks, can we get a lottery license for that?
So your organization works out of the rec center?
Yes, it's a reconciliation. We wanna raffle out something to upgrade our ball diamonds or our park.
Okay, so the ball diamonds or the park, do you guys own the ball diamonds or the park? And do you guys have your own board of directors? Are you governed by the municipality in any way, shape, or form? If you're governed by the municipality, then you're an extension of the municipality, and therefore you would not be eligible for lottery licensing. It's no different than the municipality can't issue a license to the fire department, they can't issue a license to the library, because they're responsible to oversee those are just extensions of the municipal authority and responsibility. They could issue it, if you were a separate entity, if you had your own board of directors and you ran your own programs, then you don't have to report into the municipality, you're not governed by the municipality, then you're possibly eligible for lottery licensing. You may be an eligible organization. You'd have to fit into one of those eligibility categories in the policy manual as to whether or not you could get a lottery license. If you get a lottery license, just to answer the next maybe question that's coming, you would not be able to spend money on the rec center because the rec center is owned by the municipality. So you cannot use lottery proceeds to enhance a municipally owned building.
Even the parks.
Even the parks. That's the municipal responsibility to enhance those, so.
Second question, Chamber of Commerce, can they apply for one?
So a Chamber of Commerce, generally speaking, is a not-for-profit organization, usually for purely economic benefits, usually getting the businesses to join. However, if the Chamber of Commerce has charitable objects and purposes, they'd be considered, that fall into one of those categories. They'd be considered a not-for-profit with charitable programs and could be eligible. What happens then in those cases is that the Chamber of Commerce lottery proceeds would be restricted to just supporting those charitable initiatives. They could not use lottery proceeds for economic benefits for the community.
Right.
Okay, you're welcome.
I belong to an agriculture society, and during the fair, a lot of times we might have where we might have a lucky members draw that people put stuff into the exhibition hall or that, and it's usually a prize that somebody has donated to us, mailbox or, you know, if the mailbox doesn't come in, we'll give them the value of the thing. When we have to have a lottery ticket or a lottery license for something like that.
So again, when we look at the definition of a lottery scheme, it's gotta have those three elements. So consideration or a fee for a chance to win a prize. If one of those elements are not there, then it's not gonna be under the definition of the lottery scheme, and you wouldn't have to get a lottery license. So if it was free to participate, then there's no consideration or fee, right? If there's no chance, then it's not a lottery.
Like to enter into the exhibition hall, it's a nominal fee of $5, and everybody who enters there becomes a member of society, that's
Yeah.
what it is. So everybody's name is eligible for it.
Okay.
And at the end of the fair, somebody pulls all the numbers out of the hat or the one of the names out of the hat.
Okay.
And, you know, that's what something, you know, we've done over the last few years, just sort of to get people involved in the fair.
Sure.
Stuff.
Sure. Okay, so in those situations, I mean, one of the easiest things to do under a fair and exhibition license, because there's a separate license that you can get for that, is you could get a fair and exhibition license to just cover this raffle, and then the prize would be very minimal. The proceeds from that raffle would then go towards helping pay for the running of the fair and exhibition.
Yeah.
Which is what you're basically doing now anyways, right?
Yeah.
So we could certainly go that route if you wanted to do it that way. The other way of working, it would be potentially if there was a way to participate free of charge, then it becomes more like a promotional contest. So if other people in the community could win the prize, then that would be taking it away because then the consideration isn't your way of participating, right? But then you'd have to go into promotional contest rules, and I don't govern or regulate the promotional contests.
Okay, like at one point in time, we also had it that when he came into the fair, we give them a ticket for a draw where they put it into an adult draw or a youth draw, and for prizes that somebody's donated.
Yeah.
And, you know, or they'll have the box in the exhibition hall or in a couple different locations through that they can just put, and they don't have to, but they usually paid a membership or entry fee into the fair. Would that also have to have a?
So from what you're describing, it sounds like you're looking at indirect consideration for a chance to win a prize, and it should be licensed. In this case, it probably should be under a fair and exhibition license, which wouldn't be from the municipality, it would be from the AGCO. If you're gonna use the proceeds to help offset the cost of the fair.
Okay, so is this something that if we had 2 or 3 different draws or events through the fair, that we should be approaching this from the, your organization to have, that we can operate it? Do we have to list out the different?
Yes, yeah, we would issue a fair and exhibition license to your organization to run and to operate during that fair time. And you could then do those various draws during that fair. All under the one license. You wouldn't have to get multiple licenses, it would be done under one.
And would depending on the cost, would that be, the cost would be depending on what we hand out, we'd have to list the name?
Yeah, it would be based on the value of the prizes, so you would have to determine what the value of those prizes that you're awarding would be, and that's what would the licensing fee would be based on those prizes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one is similar, I think it's the same, but I'm not sure. We're an historical society, and we have a trivia night, and we charge money for participants to play trivia. But we have prizes that are donated by businesses, or we buy the gift ourselves for the people who win the trivia night.
Okay.
Does that need a license?
The challenging part that I have here is, I can't give you a legal opinion. Like, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't wanna mislead you and take you down that path of saying, yes, you do, or no, you don't. At the end of the day, I just wanted to provide you with the definition of a lottery scheme and then send you back with information to be able to make informed decisions for yourself to say, is this gonna be a lottery scheme? Would this fall under that definition that guy from Toronto talked about, right? So is that, and then you can make a decision moving forward, whether you wanted to change how you operate it or, modify it or, not do it at all. It's up to you guys.
Okay.
So I can't say whether it would or wouldn't be. I'm not wanting to mislead you.
I just want to go back to the gentleman in the red shirt, the question he asked you.
Yep.
We have a 10-year lease with the municipality. Who own a historical building. And we have a 10-year lease to try and save that building, so we're looking for money from Trillium and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
To save that. And, the municipality owns the building, but we have a 10-year lease, we have our own board of governors. So it's kind of the same question he asked. You said at one point during your presentation that if somebody else owns the property, you can't bring
Correct.
money to the property.
Correct. So the challenging part in this case is that the municipality owns the property, even though you lease it and have a long-term lease. Certainly leases can be broken or canceled or whatever, not to say that the municipality is gonna do that, but at the end of the day, lottery proceeds would be going towards enhancing a municipal property. And then at some point in time, the municipality is going to own that property again, without anybody leasing it, that's now been enhanced by lottery proceeds. So the challenging part that we would have is, how is that a charitable program and service? How is that a charitable initiative? Not to say that it shouldn't be done, but lottery proceeds shouldn't be going towards that kind of an initiative,
So the goal is for the building is to have a cultural center
okay?
in the community. Because we've already got a museum and we want to create a cultural center where groups can meet
Okay.
and we can have our files there.
Okay,
Would that change what you just said?
again, it's gonna be on a case-by-case basis that we look at some of these things, like, is the municipality turning over the ownership of the building to an entity? Or are they going to continue to own the building and be responsible for maintaining? If somebody slips and falls in the building, who are they suing? Are they suing the charity? Are they suing the historical society? Are they suing the municipality? Those are the things that we kind of need to look at in terms of understanding who has ownership. Because when we look at lottery proceeds, if the facility was owned by the historical society, then it's different, because now it's your building, it's your property. But at the end of the day, I'd say the same thing if you wanted to spend money on enhancing the municipal town center so that they had more office space to provide more services to the residents of the community. The answer would be lottery proceeds shouldn't be going towards that initiative. As much as that might be beneficial to the general public, that's not charitable. So we would need to understand how the support of that facility or that building is charitable, because it's a municipally owned building.
Do I talk to the municipality or do I talk to you guys?
No, you talk to the municipality.
Okay.
And then they'll probably talk to me.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You have one question on mine?
Just a question regarding the dance, my buddy.
Yeah.
About. The tickets we sell is for attending the dance.
Yep.
If some of our members went around to local businesses and collected items.
Yep.
To give out.
Right.
And we giving it out as a attendance prize. Because there's no mention of a prize on the ticket. The ticket is to attend the dance.
Right.
Would there be a requirement for a license?
So the challenge that I have here, and I'd asked the question, and again, I can't provide you a legal opinion. I'm not trying to sound like a broken record. But in order to be awarded this prize, how am I able to get this prize? Is the prize only available to people who paid the $20 to get in the door?
Well, people that are in.
That are in the event. So then at the end of the day, there is consideration or a fee for a chance to win a prize. So all three of the elements are there, whether you promote it or not. It doesn't say anything like that in the criminal code to say whether or not it's defined as a lottery scheme. It has those three elements: consideration or a fee, for a chance to win a prize. So in those particular cases, if you're hypothetically speaking, if you're running this kind of an event, you could get a lottery license to just run it all legally in late. It's quite possible to do it, just get a lottery license. Okay, you're welcome. We'll do this question and then we'll go to the online, so then we got a couple online. No, we'll go there.
Quick question,
Yeah.
mine's about basket of cheers.
Basket of cheers?
Yeah.
Okay,
So, my question is twofold. Basket of cheers, you need a license, am I correct?
I don't know what basket of cheers is.
Okay. So let's say there's a draw or whatever it is.
The prize.
It's a prize. Let's go from there. And it's drawn, there's no lottery ticket, and it's during a wedding or an event here at the hall. What are the consequences to aid or volunteers and or the municipality who owns the building if there was an illegal
Okay,
draw?
I understand what you're talking about now.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna, because that, the same.
Oh,
yeah, there are some events out there that happen in the province from time to time, and usually they will fall on weekends, so forth, like Jacks and Jills, Bucks and Does, all those kinds of events. So in those cases, the people who are running the event are responsible for the overarching managing conduct of whatever the event's going on. In many cases, those types of events, whether they're weddings as well, could have SOPs or special occasion permits for liquor to be sold and so forth. So they're gonna be responsible, or they need to be responsible to comply with all the laws. So if they're running illegal lotteries in that facility at the time that they're running it, they could find themselves in trouble if a compliance official from the AGCO is investigating that SOP license and finds illegal lotteries going on. Similarly, that if we were to have and our legions, if the legion gets an inspector come out and look at your legion, because the liquor license is there, and we see that there's illegal lotteries going on, then we could address that in the liquor license, because there's a requirement and responsibility to comply with all the laws of the land. Okay, when you're getting one license, the expectation is you're gonna be compliant with all the licenses or all the laws of the land. So in this case, I'm not sure what the liability would be for the municipal staff or for volunteers of an illegal event being done. It'd be no different than if I was to rent this space here and then just fill the whole space that I've rented it for, say, 3 years, and I've then filled this whole space up with, cannabis plants, more than what I'm legally allowed to have. What's the liability for the municipality? I'm not sure if there would be, because there's a lease agreement protecting the municipality from that, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to speak to the solicitor of the municipality, just to kind of protect the interest. See if there are things or clauses in the contract for you to rent out, that people aren't gonna be, if they do conduct illegal things, that there's not gonna be any kind of, legal ramification to the municipal staff.
But if it's our license, like our liquor license, is that different than an SOP?
Well, if it's your liquor license, I'd have to speak with my folks in liquor. I mean, I do charitable gaming. I mean, I know very little about liquor other than how to consume it. So the Liquor License Act has some requirements. If it's your liquor license, then the municipality has some responsibility over how that liquor license is being managed and conducted. Same with the Legion. Legions would have a responsibility to oversee what's going on a liquor license in a Legion. So. All right, so we'll go on to the online and then I'll come back in here.
Can staff members of an organization or executive members purchase lottery tickets such as 50-50 tickets, Catch the Ace, or break open tickets?
Okay, so good question. The answer to that is the executive members should not be purchasing tickets for the raffle. Whether or not staff or volunteers are buying tickets, that's up to the organization. The bona fide members, which are the members who are going to make all the managing conduct decisions of the lottery, cannot participate. But if they want their volunteers to be able to participate or staff to participate, that's up to them. They would have to highlight that in their conflict of interest policies in the rules of play for the raffle.
When doing a raffle draw, did I hear correctly that expenses need to be paid out of the trusted fund account as opposed to the actual money made from the raffle itself? How do you figure that out when the money all goes directly in the trusted fund account?
Okay, so all of the expenses should be paid from the lottery trust account. They could usually be paid by check, or there's electronic funds transfer processes that can be done. All of the expenses that are directly related to the managing conduct of the raffle or the lottery can be expensed through that lottery trust account. They can be reflected as well in the report, when they submit the report for whether it's tickets printed or advertising costs, all those different things. They've got to be directly connected to the manager comment of the raffle.
Just two more questions. Is it admissible for funds raised from raffles to go towards purchasing a vehicle for a nonprofit agency if it is used to transport individuals within the community?
So in that case, if the charity wanted to purchase a piece of equipment, we would certainly first need to make sure that the organization that the money is being donated to is in fact eligible to receive lottery proceeds. And if they are eligible to receive lottery proceeds, then money could go towards the vehicle, provided that the vehicle is being used 100% for the delivery of charitable programs. In this case, if they're delivering or transporting people to and from appointments that couldn't get that kind of service, then that would be acceptable. If they're only going to use that vehicle 50% of the time for those charitable programs, then 50% of the cost of that vehicle could be covered through lottery proceeds.
And the last question, if you do a 50-50 and in order to get the money, you need to answer, somebody just asked another question. Sorry, if you do a 50-50 and in order to get the money, you need to answer a skill testing question, does that fall under prohibited raffle?
No, and in many cases, there shouldn't be a skill testing question for any raffle license. Municipalities should not be issuing a lottery license to an organization that has a requirement for a skill testing question.
And then just another one just came in. Can you elaborate on the chance portion of the definition of a lottery scheme? Is a game of skills such as figuring out the number of jelly beans in a jar considered the chance?
So, I mean, the chance is going to be a number of different factors. Chance can be a level of skill involved. That's why in some cases, when we look at some licenses, like a social gaming event license has blackjack as a lottery license for a black tie event. Blackjack has a level of skill involved, so there is a level of skill, but there's still a level of chance as well. So there can be a mixture of chance and skill that still falls under the definition of chance for a lottery scheme. Okay, back to the room.
So just to emphasize a few things, a lot of the groups here have organizations. They can't run a lottery for the betterment of the buildings that are owned by the township. But can they run a lottery for the programming that are going to benefit the kids?
The programming that the charity runs?
The programming, like there's a pool, can they raise funds with a lottery to pay for the programming for the swimming or for the kids? Or can they buy other stuff? Not for the betterment of the building, but to directly benefit the children.
So in those cases, first I would look at if the programs for the kids was being run by a separate eligible organization. So if there was a swim club or a swim association that's going to run those programs, then and they're eligible because they would fall under amateur sports or enhancement of youth, then I would say, yes, you could donate lottery proceeds to that organization who could then help offset the cost of renting the pool, which would then bring down ideally the registration fees for the kids that go into the pool. If the programs are being run by the municipality, then it becomes a challenge because you couldn't donate the money to the municipality to have them give free things to the kids. What you could look at doing is potentially creating your own initiative, your own charitable program to say, we're going to send 2 kids to the swim program, all expenses paid by the organization, and you'd like to apply for your kid to be part of that program, submit your application to the organization, and you set up your program to meet that criteria, and then you could then pay for those because it's now a charitable program that any member of the public can apply for, and then you guys would make the decision and then pay the registration fees for that. So that would be a charitable initiative that your organization is running, but you wouldn't be able to give the money if the municipality is running the program.
So if the Optimist Club wanted to run the lottery and then give funds to cover those programs,
Again, it would depend on who's running the program. So if the program is run and overseen by the municipality, then no, because the municipality can't receive that. But if the Optimist Club wanted to send 1 kid to the school, to the program that's an Optimist that's not an Optimus member, but an Optimus supported child, and people can apply, general public can apply for that spot, then the Optimus Club can run that charitable initiative and say, we're gonna send one kid to this swim program run by the municipality. If you'd like your kid to maybe try and get that free initiative or that free tuition or whatever, that's the Optimus program. So you now create that program, the criteria for eligibility, kids can apply or parents can apply on behalf of the kids, and then you would choose out of the kids that have applied, which kid is gonna go into that, and you would then pay the registration fees for that kid. And that might be an annual thing that you could do, where you're paying and sending one kid all expenses into that swim program. But you're not running the program, you're not donating it to the municipality and letting them choose. It's actually the Optimus Club that would step up and run that program.
1 or 10 or 15.
However many you wanted to pay for from lottery proceeds, yeah.
Little side question about when you talked about the conflict of interest if the wife of.
Yep.
But in our small communities.
Yes.
Sometimes at an event, there are many cousins and mothers and aunts, so FYI, we might have some often conflicts, but it's just a little side joke.
Yeah.
I wanna ask you about casino night events, like that we organize ourselves.
Okay,
We have all the gadgets that we need.
okay.
Now, does that license fall under the bazaars or it's a special license on its own?
When you say casinos nights, and that's.
People would buy like, for $10, they buy like a cup full of chips and then they go play. And then.
And play what though?
They play for fun, but they buy, they play blackjack or. We have we have like various little casino, we have like table mats or.
Okay.
But.
Like Texas Hold'em and
Yeah,
poker and
yeah,
all that stuff?
yeah, that's type of stuff.
Okay.
And then they.
Any
buy-
roulette, dice games or anything?
No, we don't have roulettes, we
Okay.
have, anyways, we have poker, we have blackjack, we have.
Okay, and then after the event is done, what happens with the chips?
We've had, that we had prizes and people would take their chips and saying, okay, I wanna try and win that prize with my amount of chips. And whoever had the most chips in that box would win the prize.
I'm not gonna be popular tonight.
Fine, well, we just need to know.
Yeah, so when we look at these, I mean, if you wanted to run blackjack and Wheels of Fortune, there is a special occasion gaming license that you can get, which would be different Wheels of Fortune, like the Crown and Anchor and stuff, where you can actually make money from it. And then blackjack as well, running the blackjack tables and a certain number of tables you can get under a special occasion gaming license to try and make money from that. When you look at doing the casino stuff, because you've got the consideration or a fee for a chance to win a prize, it's gonna require a lottery license. We do not have a lottery license for you to do poker. We don't have a lottery license for you to do the Texas Hold'em or any of those kinds of special games. No roulette, no dice games, no nothing. The only thing that you could do would be blackjack and or Wheels of Fortune. That's it, under a special occasion gaming license. So if you were, so what some organizations have done is because they wanted to, I don't wanna say work around the rules, but work within the framework, but still make sure that they weren't getting a license or needing a license, is they would play the games for fun. They wouldn't offer any prizes, so people can come out and just have fun playing these games, Texas Hold'em, poker, whatever you want, but there's no prizes. So as soon as you eliminate one of those elements, you now don't need a license for it. So if you wanted to, you could say, we're gonna have a fun, and a lot of organizations have done fun casino nights, where there's no prizes, but you can come out and if you run out of chips, you want some more, here's some more, go back out and have fun and play. And then of course, during the course of the night, maybe they wanna run a raffle, or maybe they wanna do a silent auction with the prizes that have been donated. And that's where they're gonna be able to raise the money from the silent auction, so that we're still able to play fun with the casino style and have lots of fun doing that. But because there's no prizes involved, then we're not kind of breaking the law. So that they can still run those, have fun, and then make money doing a silent auction, traditional silent auction.
And what about events that you bring in companies, that they bring up, that they they bring the stuff and they also bring the dealers and stuff like that, like, does that?
That's not something that's licensable. It's not something I would encourage any organization to do because, and again, I can only tell you the legal frame, right? I mean, if people want to do things illegally, certainly it's up to you. And, you know, it's not a problem because you make the decisions that you want. Hopefully you'll make informed decisions moving forward after tonight. But organizations that are out there that are willing to offer their services to do these kinds of poker nights and run the poker tables and take a rake and all that kind of stuff from the house, those are illegal and they could be shut down. And people can then be charged criminally because now we're starting to talk about having an illegal gaming house. Because there's casinos out there that have to get licensed and we do background checks and everything else. And so in some cases, those types of entities, and we've even had where some OPP officers have gone into those Jacks and Jills or Bucks and Does and shut them down and charged people because they were generating thousands and thousands of dollars of revenue running these illegal gaming houses. So people can certainly run the risk of running those, but I would not suggest or recommend any charity hire a company to bring in dealers to do blackjack, Wheels of Fortune, poker and Texas Hold'em and roulette and all that, because they would not be legal.
But a company could do it is if they're paying for it and there's no prizes. As an activity.
Again, yeah, I'm not wanting to, you know, kind of split hairs and say what people can or cannot do with work around the framework. I'll give the framework and the details and people can make informed decisions from that. And then I always strongly encourage anybody, if there's serious concerns, to then seek out their own independent legal counsel, to get a lawyer to tell them from a legal perspective, because they can give a legal opinion, this is what you need to do in order to do this legally, under the framework that Ontario has.
Okay, I'm a member of the rec here in the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
We have a great rec, thanks to the lobby we do. But then we want to put money in the ball diamond and the playground. How can we raise money if we can't do any draws?
So is the ball diamond?
It's all part of the rec, which is owned by the township.
So that becomes challenging because then it's municipal land. It's
So how
municipal
can
property.
we raise money? We can't make any raffle.
Well, it wouldn't be raising money through lotteries, because the lotteries couldn't then go towards municipal property and municipal responsibilities. So at the end of the day, I'd say the same thing if people wanted to get a new hockey arena and they wanted to do a lot of fundraising and a lot of raffles to pay for a brand new hockey arena in the community. The answer would be no, you can't use lottery proceeds to pay for these types of facilities. That doesn't mean you can't support it using fundraising initiatives. That's why I tried to distinguish the difference between fundraising and lottery licensing. So if you wanted to do fundraising and get people to come out and support fundraising initiative, whether it's you want to do a car wash and charge $20 to wash a car with all of the money going towards the repair of the field, that's general fundraising dollars. You can do whatever you like with that money.
Yeah, but you know that raffles is a great way to raise money.
It can be, but there are restrictions on what the money that's being raised from those proceeds needs to go towards. That's why the municipality and the AGCO, we cannot get lottery licenses. I can't issue licenses to myself to then use it to offset our fiscal responsibilities and our budgets that we have. Otherwise, municipalities would be issuing themselves licenses to help offset their tax dollars, right?
Give me a way how I can raise money. I can make it sound an option. I can ask the dealers, but then they gave so much in last year's money.
Well, so there are other events, there are other fundraising initiatives, and I don't know all of the fundraising initiatives, I'm not a fundraising expert, right? I mean, I know some of the ones that have been common, like car washes, like, you know, you could do like roast beef dinners, those kinds of things to bring people out with the specific goal of supporting renovations to a field or renovations to an arena. People then can come out and support that. If you want the field renovated or enhanced, then come out and support this initiative because all the money's going towards that. Unfortunately, lottery proceeds just couldn't go towards those initiatives because it's a municipal government responsibility because they own that property.
Oh, that's clear, it's just,
Yeah, no, I understand.
The messengers, so I don't know.
No, I understand, yeah, no, I get it.
So my question as a recreation director for North Stormont is North Stormont owns all the facilities, that's correct. But North Stormont doesn't do any programming in any of their facilities.
Okay.
Therefore, these programming are done through volunteer programs.
Okay.
We've got a community centers committee operating these halls on behalf of the police center.
Yeah.
But they do fundraising in order to do programs at a reduced rate for anybody who wants to participate.
Okay, so in terms of putting on the programs, the charities that wanted to rent this space, or the baseball association that wanted to rent the baseball field to play baseball games, they can pay to rent the fields or rent the facilities using lottery proceeds. There's nothing wrong with that, because they're renting the facility to put on their charitable programs. What I'm saying is that those organizations cannot give the money to the municipality to enhance the facility that they're using. They could rent this space. If I had Girl Guides or Boy Scouts wanted to rent this space to run their programs once a week, and the municipality charged them $500 a week for that, they could use lottery proceeds to pay that $500 rental fee to have the Scouts or the Girl Guides come into this facility and do their charitable programs in this facility. Nothing wrong with that, because the Scouts are paying for the services. What the Scouts couldn't do is say, municipality, here's the money, can you please enhance the facility because we need this, this, and this.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Basically, if we just look at the baseball they mentioned.
Yeah.
They can reduce the registration rate for the participants.
Yes.
They can buy the baseball, the balls, the bats and
Yes.
everything. But if they need a load of gravel to be put inside the baseball diamond, it has to come from the municipality.
That's right. Right,
Okay.
because what'll happen is the municipality,
That's your right.
because what'll happen is the municipality could pay for the gravel or those things for the field from the rental costs of renting that field and that facility.
But the recreation here in North Stormont Recreation, which is the committee for every rec, gets to keep the proceeds of the rental to do programs also.
Okay,
So, yeah, here what happens is municipality pays the utilities, but the recreation committees organize all kinds of events and fundraisers. So it's a little bit different than any of the municipalities in the province where it's all paid staff. Here it's all volunteer staff. There's only one staff that's paid, it's me as a director.
right. So, and again, maybe I need to understand the dynamic a little bit more, but at the end of the day, if the programs themselves are being run by volunteers and they have our own board of directors, they're not governed by the municipal council, they have their own constituting documents, and they can go through the eligibility process and maybe be eligible under the amateur sports category or enhancement of youth. If that's the case and they get a license, they could certainly use those license fees to help pay for rental of the facility that they're putting on those recreational programs. And therefore, that recreational program money will go to the municipality to rent that space so that the charitable organization that's not governed by the municipal council is putting on those programs for the kids to be able to benefit from those recreational activities.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
Okay?
So I don't have any further questions. I'm just wondering if anyone else has any further questions, if there's anything online.
No, we're all done online, but most people are sleeping now.
Yeah,
Okay, so I would just like to thank everyone for hanging around, anyone that's online. I'd also like to thank Rusty and the AGCO from coming down from Toronto and doing this presentation. I hope that everyone has had a chance to get their questions answered and has learned more about conducting and managing a lottery event. If you still have some questions, think of other questions after tonight's presentation, or would prefer a question answered in private. Please reach out to your clerk's department, your lottery licensing officer to assist. And I just want to kind of correct a little bit for Rusty that if you're in another municipality, go to that municipality. Go to that clerk's department or that, don't come to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can certainly help, but it is preferred to go to your own municipality.
Yes.
Okay. Also, I'd like to thank my fellow co-workers here at North Stormont from the office for helping me put on this event, whether it's support, meetings, supplies, whatever. Also the Moose Creek Recreation Group for offering to use the hall to put this event on. Also to the other municipalities in STG, Prescott Russell, and City of Cornwall for helping get the word out to the charity by word of mouth, posting on their websites. Last but not least, I have a special thank you to Todd Lee, the communication coordinator from STG County, for providing technical assistance to make this event happen. Multiple meetings and always a great support. Everyone who knows me personally understands that I am one of the least technically savvy people and would not have been able to spend on. So, thank you again to everybody. Please drive safely, watch for the deer on the way home, and thanks again for coming out.